Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Thank you for coming out to our second budget hearing, and good times to be ahead, I'm sure. We are calling this meeting to order at 5:38. Mr. Claiborne, would you like to do a roll call?
Mr. Allett.
Present.
Mr. Baltimore. Ms. Daniels.
Here.
Mr. Kaplinski. Ms. Reed. Ms. Wilson. Ms. Williams.
Here.
Thank you. This meeting is a continuation of last week's budget hearing, and tonight we'll be covering a few different areas we didn't touch on last time. We'll follow a similar format to last week. But first off, we actually do have a resolution we have to act on before the end of the year. Mr. Claiborne, would you read that resolution into record?
Resolution 137 of 2014 is a resolution approving the fifth proposed 2014 amended budget reallocation.
Thank you. Bruce, do you want to lead off on this?
Yeah, I guess. Is Chief Enterline here? He is. Okay.
Come on down.
Right. So the first line item is these are all sort of self-explanatory. There's some overtime issues we want to make sure that we're covering. We're not sure we're going to need all the budget for that, but we want to make sure we have enough available. So we're asking, and Public Works, both in sanitation and the director's office, asked for some reallocation to make sure that we're covered through the end of the year. And then there is a reallocation to the fines and settlement line item for a legal settlement, which I'm at liberty to speak on in public, and I would defer to counsel if he wants to speak further on that. But it's something that we want to get appropriated in this calendar year, get the money transferred to our insurance company. That $150,000 is the limit of our deductible, and have available for when the settlement actually occurs, and that may happen actually in 2015. I don't really know the timing of that, and those things are always up in the air. And then the fire chief can speak upon his communications equipment ask.
Okay, very good. Since you're right here, why don't you go right ahead, Chief?
Sure, man, it called me right in.
Throw it to the fire.
As I spoke last time, we were under budget on overtime this year, which is the first in, I believe, 12 or 13 years. And we have a surplus right now of about $250,000. No, we have two more pays to take care of, which is we're running about $30,000 every pay. So we have plenty of money. And I'd like to transfer the $60,000 to buy some radios. The radios that we currently have, we're having significant failure rates. And they actually, as of November this year, are no longer being manufactured by the company that's making them. And these were radios that we were given by the county under a bulk purchase program back about 6 years ago. The county floated some bonds and things to buy the radios, but then they were given to all the municipalities, so we all had the radios. And what we found, Motorola's come out with a better radio, and I'm not asking to replace all of them this year. The 60,000 will get us 12 of them that are guys that are in the most hazardous areas. So in other words, our drivers and battalion chiefs and myself won't have one of the new radios yet. We also have an ask-in from the federal government to also help fund that, the other half, which is about $150,000 for those radios. So the $60,000 will cover the 12 radios, the chargers, and batteries. And that's on a state contract. And it's a sole source vendor because of the way it was done through the county. So.
Okay, great. Any questions for Chief from my colleagues?
So you're saying you don't need more than $60,000, or are you waiting for a grant, or am I
Yeah.
hearing this right?
I feel right just using the $60,000 this year to get us started. And then, if we're awarded a grant, then we have that grant money to draw from to make the rest of the purchase. And if not, then we'll incrementally buy them, in the next year or two.
Okay.
Any other questions? Mr. Grover, did you want any other comments on the reallocation from the legal settlement standpoint?
Are you at liberty to talk about that?
So far. I couldn't hear you, Ms. Williams.
Are you at liberty to talk about the $150,000 yet?
Only in that it is the recommendation of my office, based on a particular matter, that we exercise our option to have our insurer collect that money as our contribution, and then go from there. It's a good financial decision for the city in a particular matter, because otherwise we would pay litigation costs from here till whenever.
This is our deductible?
It's called a deductible, but actually it's not purely a
Well,
deductible. Yeah,
In layman's terms, so the public can
Yeah.
understand that it's our deductible.
Right,
I
it's-
understand what
it-
else
yeah.
it's going to be used for.
Yeah,
but-
it's our contribution under our insurance policy we have to come up with if we're in serious litigation. And so there's not, I really can't talk about it otherwise. That's
I understand,
that's our
why I said,
recommendation.
Are you
So,
at,
yeah, I'm not at liberty to talk
Okay,
about it
so we can
publicly,
talk
and
about- okay.
negotiations are
Sure.
ongoing. So,
okay?
Are there any other questions about the reallocation from my colleagues?
Oh, one more question. Are you sure this is enough money for sanitation and for public works and for overtime?
I believe it will
With
be.
not knowing what the weather's going to be like?
Yeah, we've looked at that. In fact, Yangtze and I just had a conversation that maybe it's too much, actually. We do think it should
But this is only for the next,
For
covering the next
2
few
weeks.
weeks, yeah.
2
Yeah,
weeks, right?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Well, you don't know what will happen in the next 2
You,
weeks.
you are
What
correct.
happens tomorrow?
Let's hope something that extraordinary does not occur.
Everybody- Okay. I just want to make sure there's enough money,
Yep.
needed to cover the overtime, that's all.
Any other questions?
Are we asking any questions about the police bureau, about the extra time?
Yep, we can, do the whole thing.
Then I have questions for you, Bruce. This is anticipated that these are extra duty.
I'm sorry?
This is the extra duty?
Right?
Did we pay this already, or,
Yeah, this is a,
I know we're waiting for, we
exactly.
reimbursed.
Exactly. So
we've
we have to have
already-
enough allocated so we can pay it and then we'll get reimbursed back.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, that's fine. Okay, that's all I have.
Anything else? Okay, great. We'll put this on the agenda for Tuesday's legislative session to vote on and move forward, so thank you. Let's move right into the budget review, and the first section to cover is the response to submitted questions, so I'll turn it back over to you, Bruce, and the mayor.
Okay, sort of as per our last week's agenda, I'll go through some questions that had been submitted previously, and then turn it over to the Department of Administration, the Treasurer's Office, and the Mayor's Office for questions. And we'll present in that order as well, so. Okay, so there was a question of must half of the recycling coordinator's salary be earmarked from the 904 recycling grant? And that's actually not true. Per confirmations we've had with the Department of Environmental Protection, there are no restrictions on the expenditures for this grant. We just need documentation of the recycling data to receive those funds. And the city is currently in full compliance with that. And we are on track to receive 2014 funding in early 2015.
Wait,
Yep.
go back, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Any follow-up from my colleagues on that?
So we really didn't receive the funding on the 904 grant yet?
It's always a year late. We got it for 2013 and 2014. And there's no question of how monies are, or if there's segregated uses for it, and sort of double and triple check, and that's not the case, so.
How much is the grant? How much is the grant?
It depends on the amount of recycling. In the low 50s, it's been for the last couple of years. Our recycling's been pretty consistent. But
We're planning to hopefully.
if we increase it, that money will go up, exactly, right.
Okay. All right, that's fine.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. There's a question of how much time does the planning department actually spend on environmental issues? I got a very lengthy write-up from the department yesterday, actually. I can share it with you, as a follow-up if you'd like to see. But we estimate, we sort of went through it pretty carefully, and it about 30 to 35%, and growing, actually, on issues ranging from floodplain management and review, development project review for inclusion of low-impact stormwater management, active transportation projects, as there's always an environmental component now, in fact, growing numbers of those for any transportation projects that are ongoing. There's grant research around those, planning research, and urban forestry and EAC issues. So,
And is that consistent over time, or is that growing or
it's been
changing?
growing. It's been growing. There's no question that more and more, that was probably in the mid to 20s, and then the last few years, according to Jeffrey Knight, it's been increasing, and he expects it to actually increase even more as environmental becomes such a key component of any planning aspect that goes on of city issues.
And that was relevant because a portion of the planning salary was paid from the host fee. I think that was the underlying premise.
I think that was underlying prior, I agree, yes.
Okay. Follow-up questions? Okay.
There's a question about when we're going to be adding a few, 2 demo positions, and 1 street maintenance worker per the amendments that we talked about last week. There's a question of where the funding was coming from. The street maintenance worker, it's coming from the Liquid Fuels Fund. And then the other 2 coming from, we thought we were able to reduce the interfund transfer from the sanitation fund to, by a nominal amount, not very much, from the sanitation fund to the general fund, as occurs every year. But knowing that we sort of missed these 2 workers that we needed in the budget, we can't reduce that appropriation. So we'll just keep that consistent with what we had from last year.
What's the balance in liquid fuels fund?
The balance right now, I mean, we use basically most of what's been allocated in the previous year. However, because we work on a calendar year, and we work, and we only get funded March to March, you have to make sure there's enough cash in there to deal with the next fiscal year's first 2 calendar months. But we're aware of that. So there's enough. I don't know what the actual balance is there, but I believe it's enough to take us forward. We had only budgeted, based upon the previous year's allocation, of $901,000, but we actually received $980? Close to that. Yeah, $980. So that balance is there to be used. So you're always sort of paying the 1 year's extra allocation, if there is one, pays for the next year's first few months of expenditures until the next fiscal year, I guess it is, revenues are received.
I'll just add that then the demolition workers are then reimbursed through CDBG for the demolition work that they do. So that's just establishing the positions, but then it can be reimbursed back based on the demolition that will actually occur. We discussed that last week, but I just want to make that clear.
But we did count that demolition revenue in the budget already. So we had a revenue for it, but not an expense for it. So.
Okay.
There was a question about how the administrative chargeback that comes from the sanitation fund to the general fund. There's a question of, it's an indirect cost allocation and how that was actually derived. That was something that there was a study done by MaxCars, 2012 study. I can't really speak to a previous administration and when we were under receivership, what they did, but they basically did a breakdown of indirect costs across the whole city. And they went to each department and analyzed things and analyzed the expenses that that aren't allocated directly. And basically, these are the cost capture areas as delineated, and that comes out to the approximately $506,000 that gets charged back to the general fund from the sanitation fund every year for those expenses that aren't directly incurred in sanitation, such as salaries and fuels, vehicle maintenance, and such.
What's the chargeback from the treasurer? Is that just because they're taking in the?
All the billing, all the
Billing,
work,
okay.
the receipt, yeah. I cannot comment on the methodology. I don't have any access to what was done. I'd have to look deeper and going back, but,
Bruce,
Yeah.
sanitation fund is different than the other funds.
Yes, that's important to note.
It's one that's been elected to be had. We had water and sewer funds because those monies had to be put into the system, and by the revenue bonds that we had sent out, we were required to have funds to repay those bonds and set that aside as money came in. There isn't a sanitation bond. It's not the same kind of system. I mean, and so there is a difference in that kind of, so this is basically was an election the city made at one point in time. And it's important to have a distinction of what kind of money it is, because not every revenue bond or every bond account is the same. Some are mandated because we signed on with trustees and banks and lenders to have a system that there'd be revenue kept into. That is not this, and this is really different than those other types of accounts. So using administrative expenses are not really governed in the same principled way as they are, because in those, the administrative expenses have to be rationally related to the use of it, because you're assessing a specific charge related to it that's mandated by both law and by the bond indenture that was issued during the course of the borrowing. So these are really a very different thing. And people talk about them like they're the same.
Yeah, that's
but
true.
they are not, so.
Okay, fair enough. Follow-up to this, anyone? Okay, keep on.
Okay, the next question, also relating to sanitation, is, where was the funding for that fleet upgrade and the commercial residential toter distribution coming from? Well, it's from, as noted, in the disposal fund. With the change in the rate structure that was passed by council in 2013, this has provided approximately $75,000 a month in additional revenue above expenditures. And after accruing this over a period of time now, it's been almost 18 months, the city is finally in a position to reinvest back into sanitation with that accrued cash on hand and upgrade the service for all ratepayers rather than outsource it. Due to a lack of capital investment, as we all know, the state has pushed and proposed that we do. So without actually investing it and upgrading it, we would lose it. So we have a funding mechanism to pay for those upgrades, and the mayor has strongly pushed that we, do that in a constructive, affordable, and proactive manner, and that's what we're trying to do here.
Okay.
The city will continue to research and apply for applicable grants to supplement this internal investment. And we will also collect and recycle any old trash cans. We're not going to let them go to waste. But we needed to move to a standardized toter system. The toters are the ones that have the handles and attached lids versus a can, which don't have handles and don't have lids that are actually attached by hooks. So that there's uniformity in the collection and presentation purposes, as well as mesh with the new lifts and loaders, which the old truck is going to be retrofitted with, and any new truck that we buy, whether used or brand spanking new, have. So this is, we're jumping generations with our trash collection by doing this.
Just a follow-up question. So that has all been kind of planned out at this point, because I know you talked about last week, the scheduling. I think the first half of the year was commercial, then moving the second half of the year to residential.
Mm-hmm.
And is that, in terms of what type of communication can residents expect to receive on that? Or I guess, is that going to be something worked out and we'll discuss as we get into 2015?
Yeah.
There are going to be no changes for any residential trash collection until the summer of next year. So we've got lots of time to lay this out. We're focusing on commercial accounts. There's going to be direct outreach made to those accounts early on, and we really don't want to jump ahead and presume anything until we have a budget in place and that's been approved. We will also have our consultants come and present publicly on the results of the plan that they've been working on, and there'll be a whole communication strategy and component to this.
Okay.
So residents watching should not expect any changes until the summer.
Okay. Thank you. Follow-up, anyone?
Yeah, a concern was brought up, I think, at last meeting, that there be some coordination with commercial accounts, that we may violate some of those already in place agreements with private haulers. How's that going to be handled?
Well, legal is currently reviewing that, and we're going to make some ordinance modifications, which we will propose to council. And basically, to the extent that there are pre-existing contracts, those will sort of be allowed to phase out over time. But to the extent that there haven't been granted any exemptions or anything like that, we'll try and phase them in as quickly as possible. The bottom line is the city is going to move to handle all commercial trash collection within Harrisburg. But that'll phase in over the course of the year, but the beginning is going to start in January.
Can we legally do that? Can we just
Sure.
freeze out commercial accounts? Or we just have to pass the resolution of legislation to say that all commercial
I
accounts?
You already have it.
We already
Yeah.
have it.
And it's been that way, and they were given exemptions for certain people.
Because we didn't have the facilities in place on our trucks to be able to actually collect it and dispose of it properly, because they don't have the lifts and the toters.
Well, we need to fix our trucks, we need to hire more workers to do another, I mean, there are other things that have to go along with this, but I think legally, we're in a very good place.
Want to comment more about that?
Yeah. Yes, Jeff, Councilman Baltimore. Yeah, you had to give a waiver, okay? And some of these, some of these commercial accounts have waivers since Mr. Close was the public work director, okay? And they still holding on to that. And you know how long ago that's been. But we have it in place that we have to. We the only one that can actually give somebody a waiver, okay? But you have some of these businesses come in, they just, go straight to a private hauler. They don't even come through us. That's the kind of things that we got to stop. Because again, you're living in, you're doing business in the city, and the city should be picking up your trash. And the only reason why some people have gotten waivers because we don't have front end loaders. That's always was an issue. Ours is rear loading, but with us going to the toter system, we won't have that issue. But we well within our rights.
Mr. Johnson, before you leave, refresh my memory. Was it noted last week that the recycling truck would come out of sanitation fund?
The new
recycling truck. I just
the
wanna
new,
make sure that I
the
have-
brand new one?
Yes,
The brand new one comes out of the 902 grant.
okay,
That's the $250,000 grant that we have. That's the brand new one.
okay.
But the used one we getting from Shippensburg, that comes out of can't get up my mouth. That's come out the the hose fee fund.
Well, can't we take it out of sanitation? I just see we have 75,000 per month. Savings of 75, go back.
Well, we have other, we've spent the rest of that on upgrading the fleet, so the trash fleet. So the host fee portion is simply to purchase a second used recycling truck. And we'd be happy to answer any questions you might have about the expenditures within sanitation.
I just thought we had like 2.5 million in that sanitation fund. I thought we had a surplus like that. So I was wondering why we're taking out, we continuously take things out of the host fee if we have that. And go back, please, go back to the previous screen. Were you saying we're saving like 75,000 a month, we're getting that in?
We have plans to spend all of that on upgrading the fleet and the other changes, and I'm sure Public Works would be happy to talk to you about that. And it's working in concert with the host fee. We're using the host fee for its purposes, which are environmental in nature, and so.
Oh, it certainly is, I
yeah,
understand that.
right.
But I just knew we had 2 million in sanitation fund, so I just wondered why we're taking money out of host fee when we had that much money. And then when I see today, you're $75,000 a month in additional revenue above expenditures.
Right, that, of course, is the money that we are reinvesting into sanitation, so.
For the toters, commercial, residential,
Sure.
recycling, and then the fleet overhaul and upgrade.
I mean,
Plus,
Just
half
when I
would-
get an accounting for how much all that's gonna be separately.
it's all in the
there.
budget.
We're buying
Okay.
cameras and all
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
All right, and I'll look for that tonight.
Karen?
Okay. There was a question about tire disposal. Status of that the city's only spent about $500 in 2014 for tire disposal. Turns out no firm actually takes tires for free. Tangos, for example, charges $60 a ton, and many auto repair shops, sort of on a retail level, charge approximately $3 to $5 per tire to do so. I don't know if you want to speak more on that and sort of plans of dealing with that.
I know Councilwoman Reed wanted to see if we can find a place that we can disposable for free. It's tough to find somewhere free. That's why you see all the, all them car shops and all that throw their tires out there like that, because they don't want to pay what they need to pay. But it's free, fell by the wayside, so, I mean, we can still shop around, but that's tough for us. We wait till we get a load of tires, and that's when we haul them up there. I mean, it's a cost associated with it, but, you know. Yeah, I know she wanted us to check into it for free, but I wish it was. I mean, if it was free, we'd be running tires up there, you know, every week, but we haven't seen anything for free.
Okay.
There was a question on, in the lease purchase line item in the city services budget, and the equipment line item in the state liquid fuels fund, what exactly that entails. So there are both some things that are already occurring and that are anticipated to occur. The biggest portion, 157,000 or so, is the lease for the Brenner VMC facility. Then there's also a backhoe, a paver, and a skid loader, which we've just finalized contracts on. And we'll be receiving those very shortly. And they all came before council, so you're quite aware of that. And then there are plans for a sign van. I guess the current sign van has holes in its floorboard, right? That was the quote, I think, yeah. An asphalt hot box, so that can actually do hot paving on site, right, mobile. A machine for installing thermoplastics, which is essentially the embedded items on the street like crosswalks. Road painting equipment, which we do not have, or I guess it's broken, which is why we have a hard time even doing minor line paintings on our streets. And then also a road crack sealing machine. So we are trying to reinvest as, carefully, but, and savvy as we can. And I have to give a credit to Aaron and Wayne for really figuring out how we can do that at an affordable rate. And the fact that we've gotten on our feet financially has allowed us to get lease terms from equipment providers rather than paying all in cash up front, which is very difficult to do. So it's very good.
Hey, Bruce, she left a roller should be up there. That's the
Oh,
only thing
sorry.
that's up there.
Okay. And a roller. I don't think I would, okay.
That's- yeah.
Yes, okay. Question, next one was whether the streetlight LED upgrade costs are actually in this budget, and that's no. The current inventory, that the contract that was just also before council, only requires the city to pay if we actually don't follow through on the upgrade project. And the funding for the upgrade is going to be sourced through the $500,000 grant, which has already been received from the state, and then the balance, either from or both, from the infrastructure silo, which you've already put a pre-request in for that, as well as vendor financing. So, cost exactly, obviously we're not really sure, and then chief engineer can provide some more details on that I don't have at my disposal if you have any further questions on that. Okay. Next one was how our work release, which we do use, costs are accounted for. Annual spending is about $9,000 a year, and it's in the Public Works City Services line item under miscellaneous supplies and expenses. Like I said previously, we inherited a lot of these line items, and going through the budget, often they're not as detailed as maybe they could be, and that's something I'm going to try to do next year is break those out more specifically as they occur, so there isn't this confusion of what's in this line item that may be a catch-all that we could break out more cleanly. So that's a project for our department for next year.
And everyone understands what the line item is. I mean, we feed them. That's what that is. Sanitation, city services use them, public works and Parks and Rec.
Yeah, it's all food-based, right? It's all
Yes.
food.
Yes.
And then there's, by contract, we had to provide a portable shower facility for Public Works with the new move that occurred last year. That is accounted for in the other rentals line item in the Public Works Director's budget at approximately $22,000. So that was publicly bid, and we have the contract, and we budgeted for it appropriately. And then the last question was about Zumba. Why can't it be held in the Brenner facility? And then what about alternatives? And as per legal, we were instructed that city should not be holding classes in non-city-owned facilities. The Brownstone Building and the Armory Building are not open in the winter, and that doesn't seem like that would be appropriate. And then in talking with the chief at the fire station, the apparatus rooms are large enough to hold something like that there, but obviously the floors are slick and equipment would have to be moved. He did say, though, that once renovations are complete, that could be a multi-use, purpose potentially for that as, we move forward. And that's the end of the questions as presented.
Thank you. And I wanted to, Council President Williams had submitted some questions, and I wanted to invite her to ask some of the questions that were covered in some of the areas last week before moving on to some of the general administration, mayor's budget, and other offices. I'll yield to you.
No, I just tell him he can respond to me
Oh,
on Friday.
Oh, by Friday?
See,
Okay,
Because there's 4 pages.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah, so I told him he'd just respond to me by Friday.
All right, moving on. I'd like to actually invite our city treasurer, Mr. Spradley, up to join us, and we'll go through the city treasurer's budget. Mr. Spradley, welcome.
Thank you.
I'll actually yield to you. Do you have a few comments you want to make in terms of your budget at this point?
Yes. I'd like to propose one amendment, and I apologize for not doing it sooner. Just took office, so it came about. I want to do a salary increase for the deputy treasurer. Currently, the department's understaffed. They went through some changes, as well as being, in the previous year, severely understaffed, but we're getting back on track now for that. Our deputy is doing the daily work, as well as the oversight, as well as the training of the new personnel that we had come on this year. Lastly, the deputy is the key full-time member of the smooth operations between the department and our citizens. I was proposing a change of that 2015 salary from $68,000 to $72,000. And I had no other proposed amendment changes.
When's the last time that she had a raise?
2009.
And is there any offset in your budget that you're allocating to allow for the change, or is that just a net increase in your overall budget?
We haven't came across anything in particular. We have a few equipment items that were purchased last year that were refurbished, so we're kind of planning on having to replace those. We're rolling out possibly a new system in the department that we may be able to put on hold, but we really need a shredder. They've been using one that hasn't worked sufficiently and borrowing one from other department, but that's something we definitely need. But I'll definitely take it back and see if we can come up with those additional funds.
And I'll just note, having confirmed, there's a slight surplus in the budget as presented, which is enough to cover that raise should council wish it.
With no other offset
Right.
changes?
Right.
You're talking about the 20,000 reallocation?
No.
No, we have, as presented, without any amendments at all, there's about a $10,000 surplus, knowing that there would have been some salary potential bump that we wanted to account for. So that's, without making any changes, we could still account for the request by the deputy, for the deputy treasurer.
So what is the amount of the surplus in his budget?
No surplus in his budget in
In the
particular.
overall-
overall
in the
budget.
overall budget.
Yeah.
Because I want to make sure that, we see increases here under the union contracts, so I want to make sure
They're
when
in
you
there.
do this, they as well are getting an increase, but I want to make sure you have enough to do that for all of those individuals.
All unit increases are already factored in.
Okay.
Yep.
And that was my concern, because you have 3 here with the increases.
Yes.
How about your assistant deputy treasurer?
This is a new individual that came in this year. We just actually signed him on towards the end of November. So we are taking the probationary period where he He is getting a slight increase depending on performance, and it will end at 56,000.
Any other questions for our treasurer? You're good?
Thank you.
Mr. Spradley. We'll be moving on to discuss the Department of Administration, and in terms of order, I'll yield to the Mayor and Budget. Any order would you like to go in terms
I'll
of?
you start with.
You wanna start with yours?
My area, and then
Okay.
move to IT, and then legal, and then HR.
Sounds good. And Bruce, I just see, to highlight within your budget, there are certain increases due to personnel, and that is one, an increase on the accounting manager, and an increase in the budget manager, and the proposed, I guess, salary for the purchasing manager, is that correct?
And, yeah.
And were there any other significant changes? I see the senior grants manager, but do you just want to speak through a little bit about that?
Well, I mean, obviously, although we all work behind the scenes, so to speak, I would say that there is no department that works harder or longer hours than my staff. There used to be 12, 15 people in this area. We're down to 4. We all work extra hours and have devoted numerous made numerous sacrifices to get the city to where it's at right now. We've gotten a place where we have a balanced budget, where we inherited on one that was not, even though we went through the financial restructuring last year. We have a balanced budget moving into next year with a slight cash balance in the general revenue fund, which is pretty impressive. We've gotten our payable situation inherited at about $4 million down to under $1 million, and most of that actually an internal just transferred to Treasury. So the amount of work that we've gone in to restructure and reorient the city's internal finances is incredible, and I could not believe in the situation that I found this department in when I took ownership over it in the beginning of the year, and how through the hard work of Errol, Yangxia, Brian, and Keisha, how everyone, and Mike in operations revenue, pulled together and really has made it a place where we can actually now reinvest and move forward into the future rather than just sort of deal with the, quote, sins of the past is incredible. And so though we have limited resources and we have a budget that we need to be careful of you know, keep in mind of constraints, I thought raises were appropriate, and as presented, you know, I support obviously what I have proposed.
And in terms of are there any other significant changes to your budget year over year that you'd like to highlight for us?
There's really not a lot. You know, there's, you know, we went through an RFP with the audit, so you know, we do have we are keeping the same auditors, but we did go through a very intensive process, and that new contract was awarded about a month ago. It's nice to say we've already started planning for the 2014 audit already. We're actually looking to actually get it done on time this year, which is amazing. Once again, kudos to my staff and for the hard work actually getting the 2013 one done within one calendar year. But, you know, we're not really looking for much else, sort of status quo. You know, that's about it. So.
Okay. We'll start with questions from my left. Council President Williams.
Bruce, on page 63,
Mm-hmm.
what are the subscriptions for at a cost of $6,532?
Yeah,
That's a large increase on this
it's-
line item.
Well, it's from 61. That's actually the grants database called eCivis that we use to research and organize our grants. So that's
So it's for the grants manager?
it's for the grants manager database, grants database. Mm-hmm.
Your auditor one has changed to auditor two. Is this a promotion?
Yeah, but she's actually, or that position's taking on more work.
So it's a promotion?
Is that how that's classified?
Upgrade.
It's an upgrade,
It's
okay.
promotion, same thing.
Oh, okay.
Same thing. Upgrade, promotion. It's-
In the union, they consider it an upgrade. in
Yeah,
Texas.
upgrade.
Good thing we had Joni here to keep us straight.
Same. Okay. My bifocal's back on. Your grants manager, you changed the position to senior grants manager. What is the reason for that?
Well, maybe if we're lucky
This is
enough,
the only
we could get a
grant- I mean,
junior, we could get a junior grants manager and,
I'm fine with Mr. Arrett. I certainly just wanted to know why you went it from a grants manager to a senior grants manager.
That
And
was
then
my suggestion.
Next question should be.
He's a real asset to the city and has worked hard and has established himself, and
$2
so
million brought into the city, I
we
understand
figured
that.
reflecting the title change would be a positive thing.
Well, should everything that he's been an asset to, should not his salary be increased to 60,000? Because I researched some of the grants manager positions in some of the municipalities, and they're all at the low 60 to the high 70s.
Bruce can respond to that. I'll just say that the way we did this in terms of raises, we all agreed that mid-level management deserved raises. I left the amounts of those raises up to the various department heads to propose, and the goal was to try and raise people up in parity and not cause a sort of lack of parity within a single department. So there are 5 raises. There's a series of raises in the department, all of which
Sure,
are
I've seen
sort of
that.
in keeping with one another. But there's no doubt that every one of them is underpaid in relationship to, that's part of our problem here in the city of Harrisburg, and we are trying to raise those up over time. And if you look at anyone in isolation, you're going to find that they're underpaid compared to elsewhere.
I've already done my research, Mayor.
So I'm agreeing with you. I'm just.
And you're the mayor, and your turn's coming. Let me hear from our financial.
I stand by the raise.
You're answering all his questions now. He is supposed to be the individual that we're supposed to be.
I stand by my raises as proposed.
Okay, and that's what I want to hear. But my question to you was that I've researched and I've seen in
I-
other townships, wait a minute, you're getting like him, you're getting like the mayor. Other townships and municipalities have grants managers, senior grants managers with the position low 60,000, high 70,000. You have now promoted him to senior grants manager. My question again is, why was he not considered at the $60,000 salary?
I'd rather not get into personnel issues
Okay.
specifically in public.
Would you like to just
but-
answer my question?
But the,
That was my-
the
on
truth is
paper.
that there's,
I think we did answer the question. We're trying to
Mayor,
give them
Mayor,
all.
here you go again.
Well,
Wait a minute, here you go again, and please.
the-
You just sat there and said, I left it up to all of my department heads. You call them up, wait, Mayor.
to
don't
make those
interrupt-
proposals
don't
to
interrupt
me,
Mayor.
I'm ultimately in
Don't interrupt
charge.
me, Mayor, I don't interrupt you, don't interrupt me. Sit back. Now, you just said, I leave it up to my department heads to come up to make the decision about the raises. You'll have to speak to them. Now it's his moment to sit there and answer our questions. And you keep interjecting. Your turn is coming. But I asked him a question, okay? If he does not want to go on a personal level, then we can discuss that in private.
That's right. I would say everyone is underpaid, but there is a
I understand that.
limited budget, and trying to keep with some equity and uniformity. Don't want to, I trying to be as generous, but as conservative financially as possible. So the raises as proposed is,
Okay, thank you, Bruce, but I understand that. My question is that I didn't feel that we need to get any raises this year. Most of the people that came in here, been only here a year. Those who are in here a year or more, I can certainly see giving them a raise.
All of those individuals been here for more than a
Mayor,
year.
I'm talking to Bruce. I'm talking to Bruce, Mayor. I understand that you
We're a
want to.
team here, so you're going to have.
those individuals have been here long.
So wait a minute, now wait, my question is, now Joni, when you come up and you're Director of Human Resources, you're gonna be team tagging with her too? Because first of all, you said the reason that you allowed your managers or your department heads or your directors to give the raises, it's up to them, they should justify it. You said that at the last meeting. And here you are, tag teaming with Mr.
Weber?
Weber. I lost my thought here. Mr. Weber. And I'm asking him a question. And every question I asked him, or if I ask Mr. Johnson a question, you're tag teaming with him. Now let your directors answer like you said last week. Let them get the justification for the raises. I'm sorry, Mr. Weber, what were you saying?
I stand by my proposals
I
as
understand
presented.
that.
Okay.
I understand that. I just was not agreeable to the raises this
I
year.
understand.
With some of the first-year employees here.
But they're all the ones that we've proposed or been here longer than 1 year.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
No more questions, Mr. Alec.
All right, I will go down to my right. Mr. Kalinsky. Ms. Daniels.
I don't have any questions.
Mr. Ballmore.
Talk to you.
Okay.
All right, why don't we keep it going? You mentioned IT next. Evening, how are you?
Good, yourself?
Good, thank you. We'll just start actually with one of the general questions I've asked every department head. Are there any significant changes year over year to your budget that you'd like to highlight for us?
Well, there's a few changes on the personnel side. We had, let me get into that. In the past, this past year, we just mainly ran on a shoestring. We had myself, we had a IBM mainframe programmer, or I'm sorry, our IDMS DBA systems programmer, Roger. We had a help desk person we were allowed to hire within the last month. And we have, our operator, who comes in like 6 to 2:30. And then we had a systems programmer who was working as a network administrator who has since retired this past month. So we do just a little bit of a restructure there, seeing that IDMS DBA systems programmer will also be the lead programmer. We had a position before for a lead programmer that retired in 2013, so we're kind of combining that whole position into one. And then as far as two other mainframe positions, we have a senior IDMS programmer. We changed from the regular IBM mainframe programmer. And then we have just a regular IDMS programmer, which we changed from our programmer 3 position. So basically, the IDMS DBA programmer got a little bit of an increase because he's going to be training the other people coming in, if everything's allowed in our budget. So he just moved up from 68 to like 70,000. The other 2 positions were open. And we're currently looking for a new network administrator at the time.
I was noticing that there's not a lot of significant changes year over year to a lot of your expenses, and even a reduced amount for maintenance repairs. Are you duly covered to be able to handle what you need to in 2015 in terms of maintaining technology.
In our maintenance service contracts, we actually have one thing, if everything holds true, it'll be coming for council to vote on. It's in Law Bureau right now. We're going to move our maintenance service contract for our mainframe, our network drives, and for our network servers and that from one company to another. And we're looking at like a $41,000 savings.
Okay.
But in the process to do that, we have to do a 1-month buyout for like $6,000 to end the other contract. So it'd be like maybe 37,000 decrease for that part for next year.
Okay.
And just some of the other things you said about some of the prices and that, some of the software may have gone up a little bit, only because we didn't get to do what we needed to do this year, some of the maintenance because short-term personnel. And then next year, we have other things to do because we have a couple servers that need to be brought up to date with a newer platform, so we're in compliance and we're good with the antivirus and all that on them.
Okay. We'll start once again to my left.
Thank you, Mr. Arley. Good evening, how you doing?
Good, yourself?
I'm good. I see you have put in traveling, is that associated with your training for the IT?
Yes.
Okay. It's so low, but you do a lot of training.
The way the trading's set up right now, what we're looking at for this year, because we don't know about the network administrator position,
Okay.
our IMS mainframe, the DBA lead programmer, is actually minimal because he can drive there and he's more than happy to drive there.
Okay.
And what a class for myself is actually just right up the street and the other one's right over in the West Shore, so.
All right. On page 72, under web services, is this the web service money for the Wi-Fi? Is that for Wi-Fi? That $10,000 that you have under web services?
Right now, that's covering,
It's 430015, web services. There's no money allocated actual in 2012, 13, no money, 14, no money, and now in 15, we're proposing $10,000.
For the website.
Would you like our,
is that what it is?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about
Yes,
that.
that was in the mayor's office budget this year, putting it back into probably where it should have
Okay.
been. And
Okay,
it's for,
Mr. Weber, you can certainly
Okay,
answer
thank
since
you.
you're the financial manager.
I apologize, I just couldn't
and
get
that's
that
actually
number
covering
quick
the,
enough.
literally web,
Because he's right ready to pull the rest of his hair that looked at all the time.
trying to be helpful, I know
A little bit of top he got on the head, he about ready to pull it out, because he's over there cringing and ready, you know, like a little kid, oh, ooh, ah, ooh. But, okay.
I feel
all
very
right.
passionately about
Are we
this
getting
budget.
Wi-Fi? Are we getting Wi-Fi? I mean, in our chamber,
that I do not
council, or
know.
in here at all?
We had talked with Kirk a little bit and Lance about that, so it's still kind of up in the air what want to do, because
Okay.
a little bit of a study has to be done about your signal and everything else.
Okay.
There's a possibility, we looked at originally of, we don't know how the wall transfers through,
Oh,
that we could
yeah.
possibly provide the whole lower level, or the whole first floor with it.
Okay. You're safe now. One more question. Storage, 4,000. Are we storing it outside of the city?
Yes, we use a company they take our mainframe backups off-site every day, and our monthly backups for our network go off-site every day. The the weekly network ones go, basically, we hand carry them over and put them in the police department, just to keep in a
Okay.
separate building, once a week.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Allett. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. We'll go down to my right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You've got some equipment, some significant drops in equipment, office equipment, and then data purchase, data processing equipment as well. Is that something we might see a spike in again next year, or is that something that we would expect to be lower by total of 25,000?
Okay. Well, this year, we replaced, we started the first air conditioning unit replacement. Our primary one is a 20-ton, it's like 25 years old. So they put a 5-ton in, and we selected a spot that's a hot spot in the room. And we paid for all the electrical for the secondary unit, everything's paid up front. So it'd be like about $15,000 less for the next unit to go in, which we're proposing for next year.
But because you're buying it now, that's something we're gonna see a continued.
Right,
shift line.
right, yeah, once that's done, it's done. There is one thing upcoming, but not this year. We've tried twice for a grant. We really should replace our UPS, but we'll see that down the line, which mainly handles all the power for everything in our computer room. It flows through there, it keeps it even keel. We tried twice,
Yeah, that's important.
and just got shut down, yes.
All right, thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Going down the line, Ms. Daniels.
I don't know if this is an appropriate question to ask, but I know that, on our end, accessing the city's email remotely is a problem, and it's enough of a security problem that my university gave me a talking to for accessing it. So are the upgrades that would be necessary to make our email system safe and secure, are those addressed and included here? Because it makes my life really difficult.
Well, one thing we're looking at, and depending upon, well, for next year, because we're at Exchange 2007, we'd like to get to 2010, which gives us a lot more improvements. It gives us, we had a certificate issue this year, stuff like that. It handles all that stuff and takes care of it for us.
Okay,
So we're looking at doing an upgrade to the
And
Exchange.
that's included in the budget
Yes.
here? Okay. And regarding the web services, why 10,000? What are the web services?
That's mainly for Ryan, isn't it, in his portion? For the City of Harrisburg's webpage and that.
Yeah, but wasn't that work already done?
There was no website when we came into office. It was outsourced and then the contract lapsed. So we have to.
Yeah, but
the
but-
hosting and
It's the cost, I guess, are you referring to as the ongoing maintenance and because now we're doing it in-house, is that, so there's going to be an ongoing cost, so we can expect to see that on an annual basis?
I believe that's the case.
So is it just, so, but, so if it's just updates, wouldn't the communications director be the person doing the updates?
It still has to be hosted.
Okay.
And there's other services behind it.
Yeah.
I don't know all the details, but it's not just a flat site. There's a lot of other interactive components to it, storage aspects to it, that the city never had borne those costs before. It's very intermittent. So now we're trying to budget enough to make sure that we have the flexibility to have a robust web presence. I believe Jeff and Joyce can probably get into slight more details, but doesn't see, it's not an extraordinary amount of money. And obviously, we don't want to spend more than we have, and I don't think we spent quite $10,000 this year. The idea is to, spend enough that there's enough presence. So the maintenance of it, you need somebody there who's going to update it so it stays fresh and relevant. That takes a lot of time. There's a lot of content, but then there's a lot of the behind-the-scenes aspects of it that the city had never budgeted for. So that's where that is coming from. There's subscriptions, and,
Is it safe to say it's the difference between having a static website and then
And
something
something
that
that's
is?
dynamic, yeah.
Okay.
Right, it's kind of twofold, because you see the front-end version where things get updated daily. Then there's the back side of it where Ryan handles the different programming, add-on stuff like that, and then there's maintenance involved in that stuff.
licensing and stuff.
Licensing, yes. So it's like twofold. You only see the front side. It's kind of, I don't know how to simplify it, like our IDMS system downstairs. It's the old mainframe system. We do everything on the background to make it easier for the user on the front end to just enter data in that, which is the same thing Ryan's doing. He does that with the licensing, all that stuff, then it's easier to populate the pages in that, to change, like update the new documents and alerts and that on the website. Is that, sorry,
No, it's
I
okay.
can't think of a good way to put it, better way.
It's the cost of maintenance
Yeah.
and providing that service, bandwidth costs. I mean, we try to put it all in one place there.
Okay. I think those were it for me.
Mr. Podmore?
No questions.
Okay, great. Thank you, sir.
Right, thank you. I got stumped on that one.
What did you want to cover next? We want to go to,
Legal?
oh, is legal under administration, or we?
Well, we just figured we just put it all in one
Okay.
place.
You do it.
You can do it however you want to do it.
Well, let's wait, because we have it all in one section, so it's probably easier not jumping back and forth. Why don't we go to HR then? Good evening.
Good evening.
Let's get to the. I'm assuming under this, we'll also talk a little bit about risk management, I think, too, correct? Because we're of the one position in particular. Okay. As I've asked anyone else, is there any significant changes to your budget you'd like to share with us year over year?
As far as our requested budget, there was only a couple of things. One was the new Toshiba copier, and we have to pay for the maintenance for that. And there was some slight increases in fees for pre-employment and drug testing and physicals, which are mandatory. That was about it as far as the requested budget.
Okay.
As far as personnel is concerned, I did put in for increases for two of my employees. Both have been here long-term, and neither have had a raise since 2009. And in order to cover those expenses, we decided to eliminate our secretary position, move our secretary into the HR generalist position, and work with the four of us. The excess work would be spread out amongst the four of us.
And you feel confident going forward that that will work from a structural standpoint?
If we are able to remove the insurance for the city out of my office, because currently I handle the city's insurance. And that's all liability insurance.
Okay.
So it's kind of like a juggling thing where the personnel officer picks up some of the HR director responsibilities, so, because I'm dealing with claims. And the secretary helps me too. She takes claims over the phone. And just risk management just doesn't have a place in HR.
Okay.
Hence the new risk management
Correct.
position.
Yes.
Okay. A follow-up question. You and I had talked about this, so I wasn't going to bombard you with something that you weren't aware of. We had some conversation last week around the combination of the position with the benefit ADA and also handling affirmative action in one role. Is that correct? And we talked about the fact that we haven't had the HRC point of contact within the city for some time.
The Human Relations Commission.
Yes, based on the elimination of by council, and there's obviously the talk of bringing it back. The discussion last week centered on the fact that whether we need to bring that back, but also probably more importantly, perhaps we bring it back to cover what's not covered in the state non-discrimination ordinance, since we have an ordinance that supersedes what the state has and has additional coverage. So as I bring this to public, we talked about the fact, can this person perhaps handle, the point person from the city side, any complaints that get made for that?
That wouldn't be the benefits coordinator. We were talking about the risk manager.
For the risk, that would be the risk manager, okay.
Affirmative action
Perfect,
officer.
that's what I want to make sure we're talking about the right position.
And as I said, I'm not certain because the risk manager and affirmative action officer only really handle internal issues, not external, whereas the Human Relations Commission handles external problems. So I would recommend that it go to the Law Bureau for them to review.
Okay, and then, did you two have a chance to discuss this at all, some of the implications around that?
Yeah, the implications of this have actually been discussed throughout the year. And they really are legally two different things. And we're willing to work, and we think that a person in risk management can take on the complaints. The reality of our Human Relations Commission, when we go back and look, is they handled outside complaints. There was just a handful, sometimes two in a year, and it was a full-time position plus the commission. There is a delicate balance because of at least my job is to avoid liabilities for the city, and trying to figure out the puzzle of how do you create someone's job who it is to protect and report to for violations of protective class, and not include every protective class that by law exists. And frankly, we don't know the answer to that yet. We're working through it. But we think on an individual complaint basis, it's very doable.
Okay.
It's the question, I think, of finding a way to give people keys to City Hall with these complaints and finding a way to be responsive to them, because we do, it is protected in the city's ordinances in
Correct.
general. And so it's coming up with a mechanism. I think that's very doable.
Okay.
It's just, you have to do it without then subjecting yourself to basically a class action claim that you've protected one class, but you haven't provided another class any protections whatsoever that are protected by law.
Right, and I think
I
from,
don't think the issue is excluding any protected classes, precisely because the complaints that we received are so few. We don't even need to go there.
right,
Well-
but I just think, I mean, from my perspective, like, it's really allowing there to be a mechanism because our own local ordinance supersedes the state ordinance.
Well, it
and
doesn't
that's the-
supersede it, expands it.
Well, it expands it, right.
So, but yeah, so that's the whole thing. Like, there are groups that are completely excluded if we don't do this.
Correct.
Right? Whereas if we do it, we just, I mean, we can use the inclusive ordinance that we have and be fine because we didn't have that many complaints.
But I think the concept, at least on the side of coming up with the risk manager, and then there's in my office, a labor relations coordinator who's going to provide some support services administratively, was to allow the ability to sort of give this and some other issues a more detailed analysis and come up with a mechanism to do it.
Correct.
You know, they're going to have the affirmative action portions of the obligations as well. And I think that person, as opposed to squeezing it in a bunch of other things, have a chance to really look at it and make it work.
And I realize that, I mean,
yeah.
the likelihood and the amount of type of complaint that could come could be very few, but I just think it's important to be able to have some,
Right.
some mechanism obviously in place, especially because we have the ordinance.
I just want to say from a policy standpoint, because there is a policy standpoint and a legal standpoint, we are open to this and to working with council, and it would fall within the risk management portion.
Okay.
And I'd like to get the person that we hire, whoever that is, for that position involved in the conversation and weighing in. But but we are open to doing this, and I think we can do this and work it through with council and with the solicitor's office.
Yeah, but we reached out, how long ago did we have those conversations? It's been like 5 months now, right?
Well, we haven't
So-
had any position, we haven't had anybody hired to do it.
Right, so, I mean, those were the things that were supposed to have been sorted out, so that by the time the budget comes across, we know what it is we're supposed to be doing, what we're authorizing or not authorizing.
Well, the suggestion is to establish this new office and then to have the person hired for that position work
Do
with
the
council
work.
and the solicitor's office to establish the parameters, and that's a lot better than what we had before,
Right.
which was nothing. So, yeah, we're getting there, and we support the policy objectives of council, and I understand your concerns. I'm pretty sure we can do this.
And the city employees, the administration, the council, I think almost across the board has been very willing to send whatever complaints, almost anything, up to the Law Bureau if it has a question. We've not gotten a single complaint this calendar year. Most of the complaints that the HRC handled were actually housing complaints, the ones that they did. At least that's what my research through the files say. So there is the thought of trying to make sure it happens, but, the complaints that actually come in are the things that are being addressed in reality. A new position will allow that to be put in a better position.
Correct.
I think frankly, if there had been complaints coming in, we would have been addressing them as they come.
Well, and I feel most of the time people probably don't understand there's a mechanism that they could go through to do it. If it hasn't been exit, people probably either it went overlooked or non-reactive, not do the part of anything the city had wanted to do, but just because there was no clear communication of what somebody could do if they had something they wanted to discuss. And I think,
Yeah, the time we disbanded, a lot of cities disbanded as well, and I think the word was out that you didn't file these types of complaints with municipalities. So I think there was a combination of, we didn't have the mechanism, and we weren't getting enough complaints to begin with, and then the word was out publicly that, you didn't kind of go to your local your municipality to do that. So I think all of those were kind of created the environment where people didn't realize that we have a city ordinance that's, that's more inclusive than the state ordinance, and that there might be a role for the city in addressing inequities in the city, within the city. So I think a lot of those things we'll sort out once everything starts, because once the commission reactivates, and let's say we give them a budget of $100 to do outreach or whatever, right, we'll start to hear, will people call in or not? And I think it's hard to kind of assess what to expect.
Right, I agree. And I think the better thing, we should celebrate the fact that we've taken a stand as a community that's more inclusive than what our own Commonwealth has done. And I think that's something that we want to make sure that we can continue to allow as a good resource for our community. And granted, hopefully we don't need it. The best thing is we just shouldn't need it. You know what I mean? The reality is, let's make sure that we've created that safe environment for all. I think that's, we probably belabored the point, but.
Yeah. So it's going to be in the risk management position. Which one of these is the risk management?
It's on another section, I'm sorry.
It's a new bureau.
It's an old bureau that's not going to be a new bureau. There used to be one.
Yeah.
But it's risk management, affirmative action, right?
That's right.
Correct. And so in terms of questions, if we have questions for HR and risk management, let's handle that at once. I'm sorry.
I still don't know which
Oh.
one it is.
To my left.
Okay. So what you're saying, Ms. Joni, is that there's 3 positions here that you actually just gave promotions, right? The personnel officer to personnel management, right?
Correct.
Okay. Or upgrade, as you said.
Upgrade.
Okay.
They're being upgraded.
Benefit coordinator, that's the upgrade.
She's taken on the ADA compliance process, and she's also taken on the family medical leave, since we do not have an affirmative
Okay.
action
I
officer.
have no problem with that. Okay. And then the confidential secretary, right?
I have a confidential secretary right now, and she's very capable of picking up a lot of the generalist responsibilities. That was my former job, and she's slowly been learning it. And I feel that she can just move right into there.
And has that position started that salary that you indicated to us?
The 34,000?
Is that her is that the?
That's her current salary.
Okay. I'm asking you, as a human resource generalist, is 43,000 the starting base for her?
Yes. The 47,895 is what I made starting in 2009, up until this year.
So you
High
reduced the
I reduced
salary
the
allocation,
sum.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You said 2009?
Yeah, the 47,895 was from 2009, when I came up from administration to HR as the generalist.
Okay, yeah, 47,8, okay.
Mhm.
47,895, okay. Okay. Okay, and now another question. They have your salary here at, they're going to adjust it to 60,000?
Correct.
I have information here that I'm just concerned about. Here is the director in 2009, it was 65,383. Again, in 2010, 65,383. 11 and 12, the same thing. Now, Mayor, I have a question to ask you.
I'm ready.
He's the director, right?
I feel like I'm going to defer to Joni on it, but that's all right.
No, my question is, all the other directors have started out at 70,000. She is only going to be taken to 60,000, and actually that job starts at 65,383 from the last 1, 2, 3, 4 years. So why was she not given an increase of?
Well, she is getting a raise from her old position, and that was a salary that we negotiated as part of her agreeing to become the new
Director.
HR director.
All your other directors started at 70. They came in at 70. Actually, you wanted 75, and we took it down to 70.
I think there is a difference from being promoted internally. I think you heard a little bit from Aaron and Dave about that before, that people are getting raises commensurate with their additional work. When you're coming in from the outside, then you're comparing to private sector salaries and
At least we know
whatnot.
her qualifications, because she's been here for 20 years, but we don't know their qualifications. They came right in the door in a year at $70,000. So is that what you're telling me? That you know people from the outside are coming, that when you ask for $70,000, that we know their abilities and skills and credentials?
I think that we're very lucky to have our HR director. I think she does a wonderful job, and I think that we negotiated a salary, and
Still swearing from the, you still,
you-
here you go again, you know. You have the gift
I'm
of
not going
gab.
anywhere.
And
I'm
try to
just-
persuade people to go from one angle to another. That's what you try to do. But my question again is.
It seems
she's
like
the
you'd like to
director.
see
She's
some
the only
salaries
director
raised. Yeah.
that I see here that doesn't start at $70,000. She's been here, what, 20-some years?
27 years.
27 years. You've taken on how many hats? You played 3 roles. You've taken on 3 roles.
It's what we negotiated, that's all I can say.
Okay, well, that's my.
I believe it was an amicable, positive negotiation that resulted in a very happy employee, but
She's happy.
if you feel that, I mean,
I just want to be fair.
I
I mean, here
I think
you
that's,
are.
I think that's very fair.
I want-
But I think there has to be some discretion to the sort of chief administrative officer of the city to negotiate and establish salaries within parameters based on qualifications and everything else. We're trying to do this in a thoughtful, pro-employee way, and we are trying to give raises to a lot of individuals that are underpaid in the mid-level management area. And we did not give any sort of upper-level raises. No department directors were recommending this year for a raise. Now, the HR director essentially got a raise because she went up a position within HR. But we're not coming back to you and saying that our department directors are underpaid. In fact, we're saying what we need to do this year is to look at our mid-level managers, many of whom haven't had raises in a long time, and make sure that they're adequately compensated. And that's
I respect
all
you
we're
for
trying to
that.
do. Yep.
I respect you for that, but she is not a middle management. She's a director, as your other individuals who came in from the beginning, January of this year. You said that they had, the skills and the necessary credentials. We didn't know about that. We know about Ms. Joni here. We didn't know about the individuals who started out at 70, you wanted to start at 75,000. They had to prove themselves to us during this whole year. We've already know what her capabilities are and her skill sets are. So that was my question. She's a director. She's now a director. So why is she not at $70,000? And that was my question. You answered that. My answer to that is that I'm going to recommend that it be amended, and that's just my opinion. So thank you.
All I'd say is that if we are going to do that, then you'll need to offset that somewhere else in the budget. So,
You've
no,
offset-
I'm just, so,
You've offset a whole bunch of salaries, so everything.
yes, but we paid for everything that we
Out of the,
proposed.
Well, we can look at
Yeah.
it, like you've reallocated from other places. I don't want to debate that anymore. One more question. Can I ask her for under the risk management?
Yes, yes.
Okay. On page 66, 439995. Now, you already allocated for supplies and expenses. Is that going to be for additional office equipment or anything else that you need? Because
What page are you on?
66.
That's
Is that
Bureau
one
of
for Bureau
Communication.
Pardon me?
That's the Bureau of Communication?
Yeah, you're on communication.
Oh, I'm
Yeah, and
sorry.
that,
Sorry.
they'll address that under the main.
Like that.
69.
Oh, 67, okay. Total salary, 69,000. Here again, you're almost $60,000 away from being a director. Coming in, we don't know this person's credentials, but yet we're at 69,000. How did you reach that salary level when I've looked at other years and they've all started at 57.5?
I'm looking for somebody with very strong credentials for that amount, and we have discretion in hiring. We don't have to hire somebody at the full amount. We can hire somebody at a lesser amount. But I think for that level, we'd be looking at somebody most likely with a law degree, a background in perhaps the discrimination law and risk management, other things. And I think we'd like the flexibility to be able to hire that type of a person or a caliber person to bring to the city.
Now, with that, I agree. See, I do agree with you sometimes.
Sure. I don't think we disagree.
I
actually.
see, I agree with you on that note.
Is that the headline in tomorrow's Penn Live, Christine?
Okay. What else do I have here? That's all, thank you. Under Human Resources, thank you. Yeah, well, we're going to disagree, we agree to disagree, and then, hey, that's all a part of,
Democracy at work.
I do want to say, just, comment out of probably my time on city council, where I've spent most of my time in budget and finance land, the second most time I've been able to spend, with Joni and talking HR, since something we can talk shop about. One of the things that I think that is an asset with what Joni has done is she puts on the city's hat as best as possible, recognizing where the city's been and looking out for the interests of the entire city wearing that hat. And I think that's commendable, knowing just how hard you guys are doing and the work that you're doing, and even the conversations that we've had. So I know that in her own salary negotiations, she's too humble to say this, she is thinking about more than just herself in that, and keeping in line with the city. And I think that's commendable. So,
Thank you.
and I know I should say that about many people in the city, but I'm saying that because I have worked with you one-on-one. So,
don't be so humble and ask for everything everybody else did, 70,000 when it came to the door.
so
I took a pay cut.
you want me to commend you too, Bruce? Is that what you're saying? Okay, look, he's fishing for the compliments right now, and she's just taking it and smiling. So,
I'm glad that we're changing
had to
the
prove
conversation to agreement that people are underpaid in the city, because I believe that.
You didn't prove your worth, you had to prove your worth, $70,000. Can council put in for, let's put in for,
oh, stop it. We don't need to create any additional headlines. We'll go down the line again. Mr. Kalinsky,
No questions?
Ms. Daniels,
No.
Mr. Baltimore. Thank you, Joni.
Thank you.
Shall we go on to legal? Mr. Grover,
Yes, sir.
same as anybody else, significant changes to year-over-year to your budget.
There's one significant change, which is to add this, I mentioned the Labor Relations Coordinator. The idea is to bring in an administrative person who has experience in the labor relations world to serve as support staff for not just the Law Bureau, but for HR's issues and for the risk manager's issues. And it's basically something we haven't really done, to have someone who cross over departments, but to have them as a specialized person, because the labor relations things cross over every bureau of the city. And to have someone who is the point person across the board who has that background seems, from my previous experience outside of government, and this is a way to approach it in a fiscally responsible way. We did that by taking all of the money out of money that would have gone to outside counsel in last year's budget. We moved that over there because we do spend significant amounts of our money having to send things out that we believe is probably, for the most part, getting sent on to the administrative staff of law firms to get done, because they're the ones with the expertise. So it's basically trying to bring in-house and do it in a more affordable way, but also have someone who's right there as a resource for multiple departments. That is the concept of it. We did have years ago a labor relations coordinator or a specialist that did work in the city. And frankly, the reason that it's in the Law Bureau on the budget here is because the money came out of the outside counsel, and it kept us within our budget framework. But, we don't take ownership in the sense that, it's going to be a person who's going to have to, work across the board with a number of offices.
Just out of curiosity, what is the background of labor relations coordinator you're looking? Because obviously not necessarily a legal degree at that salary level, but someone, is it like a paralegal? Is it?
It can be paralegal. It could be someone who worked for a union as an administrative, management person, so a former union member or manager there. It could be someone who worked as a legal assistant inside a government agency or at a law firm. We're basically trying to piece it together. We're going to be left with what the experience levels that come to us are, and we know that. It's something that we anticipate we'll probably have to do some real training when we bring them in, particularly, so we want someone with some contract experience, so that when they look at a contract, they have background that they can understand a contract, even perhaps if it wasn't a labor contract. If they did some compliance work at administrative levels, that they would understand what they're looking at. And then it's someone who is going to know that every time we do X, these are the 5 things that have to happen because of it. That's what we're sort of looking at with that sort of level of specialty just on the labor side. And we think that would make things much smoother for working with each of the unions and with our outside counsel.
Okay. Well, good questions to start. We'll keep the same pattern here.
Okay, Neil, how did you come up with the salary that you did?
We sat down with Joni on the computer, and we looked at what people had before and kind of made a range out of it. So
They weren't labor relations coordinators, were they?
And
They were
we
affirmative
used to have
action.
a labor relations person.
It was affirmative action officer, wasn't it?
No, no.
Prior to that, this was years ago.
2009?
That was before that.
Okay, see, I got 9, 10, 11, 12,
Nah,
13.
that's before that.
Okay.
But that's how we did it. And the thought was the salary is more depending on the person if they have the background, and the salary is less and the rest of the money goes to training that person if they don't have the background. That's the thinking on the number.
So you would want someone with a background, with a lawyer?
Either with a lawyer, with a union, or with just contracts administratively. Like if you were in a company that you were in their business office, but your job was to review the contracts and make sure the details were complied with. That it's got to be a very detail-oriented person, that kind of background, who's comfortable reading complex documents.
Well, I thought that was a little low. Again, I did some salary checking, and that goes from 50,000 to 61,000.
But I think they're the management level ones. This is an administrative, so,
Management level ones are 65 to 72.
so.
Okay. That's all the questions I have for you.
Going down the line?
Thank you, Chairman. Line, on page 53, line 421010, legal. This is for outside legal services.
Can you give me the line number again, please?
Sure.
Is it 421010?
421010, legal.
Okay.
Yeah. Is this continuing cases, or are we continuing to bring outside matters into firms, or?
We do have outside matters with firms. It frankly has become very realistic to me how difficult it is to manage case flow of a litigation style inside an office that's moving with 400 issues a day. So we use outside counsel quite a bit. We have a handful of firms we've used in the past. We've kept a number of them. We also use and rely on labor counsel quite a bit. We have 25 civil rights cases pending. We have many, many auto cases, many, many claims related to someone tripped, someone fell, and we have, workers' compensation. So we have the variety you have at any company, the kind of cases that come. And there's just no way other than to flow them along, and, as they come in and sort of manage them at our level. We're sort of like a corporate law department, and we have people that have to really devote themselves to that, and we specialize them out depending what the claim is to where they go. We also have to involve our insurance carriers, and they actually direct just to particular firms, and we work through their firms that we're willing to work with. So it's very hard to, this, your lawyer, it's very hard to know how often you're going to get sued. Sometimes you can predict that's going to happen because you did something that you deserve to get sued for. But it's very hard often how to know you're going to get sued by people and how many are going to come and how expensive they are. So.
And you think the 150,000 is sufficient?
I do, and there are other places in the budget where some legal outside counsel fees get paid at the union level. So some we can pass on because they have it at the fire and the police for arbitrations and things like that. So between that and what we have, we think this is. But this is at best a guess. I mean, I think that sometimes you get a lawsuit that is very, very complicated, particularly if it's a federal agency, administrative suit. You've got to really put an awful lot into it. Lucky to say we don't have any of those that I know of on the horizon at the moment. We've gotten rid of most of those large ones. And it's our intention to stay out of that cauldron if we can.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Ward.
Thank you. Ms. Daniels.
I just wanted you to flesh out the labor relations position a little bit more. Will this person just be dealing with grievances, or will they also be helping the different departments prepare for negotiating their contracts?
they'll be helping, not, well, the departments to a degree, but they will be helping the administration prepare for negotiating those contracts, both compliance to a degree with the contracts, but it's really a support staff kind of person. So we're not expecting them to be in there. They're going to be preparing, for example, when there is a grievance. We also expect them to be the ones who sort of coordinate the paperwork to get it to the second stage person, the third stage person, and keep track of it and calendar everything. So, so to that degree, they're helping them because they're going to be the conduit to the officers or the directors and chiefs of those departments to make sure they're on top of whatever's coming in and it's getting over to us and getting to the administration. But we haven't written the job description yet. The first question was council open to a position like this? And then, it was to move on and do a full job description for it, so.
Because one of my concerns has been that it seems like the city enters negotiation not really knowing what it needs from a managerial standpoint. So I think it would be good to have a position that really pays attention to what the managers are needing to manage staff, et cetera, et cetera. So when they go into negotiation, they know what they're negotiating for. As opposed
We
to-
are in complete agreement on that, and.
So do you see that role falling in here, or?
I see them helping managers do that, but frankly, we got to rely on managers to identify the issues. And I think having someone who's a coordinator keeps it on track. 2 of our union contracts expire December 31st, 2016. Yeah, and so, there's going to be prep work to get up to speed on those. And we also have to do every year based on the contract as written. We spent, a lot of us spent time on doing just the analysis of whether or not healthcare was beyond certain levels in the union contracts that we had to reopen them. And they would be someone who could coordinate those efforts as well.
I think that's it for me.
Thank you. Mr. Baltimore.
Yeah, I just wanted to know if any of your outside law firms are black-owned, local, small firms?
Let me think. I don't think so.
They're all big firms?
No, one is a small boutique that's been doing litigation since the 80s. Their rate has been very reasonable. They have a lot of experience with the city. They do most of our litigation, and they're identified by the insurance company as someone that they will agree to send it because they also represent and present risk to them if they're not doing it well. One of them is actually, they call it a law firm. I don't even know where they physically are. In my world, we call them captive law firms. They're really part of the insurance company. They have a group that has a name of lawyers on the door, but they're really, their email address is at the insurance company. So they're actually employees over there. And others are sort of case by case. The only minority that I know of, fully minority used law firm that we used last year, and we've gone back to them this year, is actually for financial related work, which is out of Philadelphia. That was Jerry Farrell's firm, and they are probably the largest in terms of percentage minority owned in law firms that I'm aware of in Pennsylvania. It's probably 80% there. There's a number of different ethnic backgrounds related just in the name of the firm, and they're very experienced, a wide range of things, both labor, bond, criminal, tax. They do an awful lot of stuff. They're very expensive, and that's part of our factor is what we also can afford in terms of, what we're doing. So we try not to go to Philly. We try not to go to Pittsburgh. We have to go to Pittsburgh on our union one because we frankly just have to. They were the best ones we could get. Their prices were reasonable compared to the market, and they are familiar with all 3 of our contracts. They were there for the negotiations. I frankly don't know who the named partners on it in. I have no idea who they are. I know the guy who is our labor guy. I mean, they were with our firm when we got here. So
Maybe I could talk to you about a couple of the folks I know who are
Sure.
interested in seeing.
And I have, we're always open. We're on that balance of trying to put work out, but trying not to put work out. That's our balance. So just do as much in-house as we can.
A question. Mr. Grover, You just talked about the affirmative action and the risk manager being able to handle maybe our civil rights cases if we had any. So
No,
you just-
not our civil rights cases.
Well, you just said, okay,
They're able to handle complaints,
okay. Complaints regarding the civil rights cases.
which is really different, which is,
Okay.
because once they go to
Well, I
court,
know they can't handle the cases, but they
Right.
can handle the complaints.
yeah, their idea is almost,
Oh, I'm very much aware of that.
yeah.
But my question to you is, you just mentioned 25 cases that we have in the city. Did we have any this year, that came in this year?
We have ones that we've been sued for this year. We have, I don't know if they occurred this year. I will tell you, from my professional view, most of them,
We know, we're prior cases, but.
well, not just that, they're not necessarily cases. They're,
Okay.
some of them are filed by prisoners for how they were treated in prison as opposed to how they were arrested. So, I mean, but they sue everybody they've connected to, you know. So it's hard to put them all in one category, but, and I can't talk about specifics, but I think there's probably 2 that came in this year. I know the one, the conduct was last year. I don't know the latest one, whether it was conduct this year or last year, because they just sent us a piece of paper so far.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions from my colleagues? Okay, thanks, Mr. Grover. All right, moving on to the Office of the Mayor, and we'll also be covering Department of Communications, I believe, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll turn it back over to you, Mayor. Same question as we look at your specific area. Can you speak to any significant changes year over year in your specific office area?
No, other than we are sort of reorganizing into a Bureau of Communications, something we didn't do last year. We're not creating new positions. We're just moving one position that was in administration and one position that was in economic development into communication. And I'll let our communication director address that when she has a chance. I do have to propose one additional amendment, and that is one additional salary increase, and that is for Momin Body, the director of WHBG. We are proposing that his salary be increased to $48,000. Another longstanding mid-level management individual who works very hard, and I will let our Director of Communication answer any questions about what he does, because he reports to her, and that's part of the organizational structure for the Bureau of Communications.
And just so I'm clear, I'm looking at the Bureau of Communications, so
Right.
he's the production technical manager, is that correct?
That's correct.
So it was in the budget proposed at 45, and you wanted to propose an increase to what?
To 48, and that was an oversight on our part. That had been proposed by the Communication Director, but didn't get translated into your budget, and again, we can pay for that out of the slight surplus that exists in the budget. And I do want to address, before I hand it over to the Communication Director, I do want to address the requested salary increase for my administrative assistant, with whom I could not do this job. I feel very strongly that we need to retain her and compensate her well. It seems like a large increase, but remember that council cut the salary last year in an amendment at the end, so it's something of a restitution, but it appears to be a larger increase due to that cut. I interpreted that as a positive challenge and need to, show what this individual can do. And she's exceeded expectations really in every way. I think it's important that council understands what the special assistant does. Basically handles every knock on the door, all emails that come in to the mayor's office, all written correspondence, all phone inquiries and phone calls, all proclamations requested and generated, including those requested by council, which she's done, all constituent services, scheduling, which is a huge thing, keeping my schedule and coordinating that with all the moving parts. She serves on committees within the city. She, takes various notes when I cannot attend things, and she attends meetings on my behalf. like many in the city, she works very, very long hours and is extremely dedicated to the job and has performed really at the highest level. And I had nothing but the strongest recommendation for her. She even went to school, became a notary to help save the city money to notarize internal documents. She's added that to her job description, and frankly, she happens to be perhaps the most politically connected individual we have in the administration, which may come as a surprise. But she'll be a great asset for our new liaison to the Wolf administration, and she has a wealth of background experience from her days working on Capitol Hill and in the Rendell administration. Just to put it in context, and I don't want to compare it to, salaries in Philadelphia or anywhere else, let's just explain administrative assistants in Harrisburg and in the mayor's office. Reed had 4 administrative assistants totaling $215,000 in salary, one at $65,000, one at $55,000, one at $50,000, and one at $45,000. Thompson had 2 administrative assistants, one senior and one junior, one at $60,000 and one at $40,000, totaling $100,000. So we're proposing just returning that salary level to the administrative position level that existed for every year of the Thompson administration. I'll note that one of those senior assistants resigned in part because she felt there was no way that 2 individuals could do that job, and there needed to be a 3rd administrative assistant for the mayor's office just to handle scheduling alone, which is an incredibly time-consuming task. I also note that council has 2 administrative assistants, both of whom work very hard, but have a combined salary of $118,000. And when council came to this office and wished to have an additional administrative assistant for the city clerk, the mayor's office supported that request, and we have an excellent worker. But the city clerk makes $70,000 a year, $10,000 more than we're proposing for the special assistant for the mayor. And I'm not going to say anybody works harder than anybody else around here, but certainly my special assistant works as diligently and does more work than the city clerk in terms of what she's doing, and is really not appropriately compensated. We can't afford to lose her, and if there's one aspect of the budget I feel very passionately about, it is ensuring that she gets that. I will also say she agreed to work and come to the city under that salary. We had negotiated that. Council cut it last year, which is fine. She decided to continue to work, but I feel personally responsible for making sure that she is compensated. She made a sacrifice in coming to work for this city and is doing a wonderful job and really could make more anywhere else. And it's not an extraordinary salary level, $60,000 for the sole administrative assistant for an entire office. So I'm happy to take questions about that, and then I'd like to make the communications director available to talk about the reorganization for the Bureau of Communication.
All right, let's start to.
Okay. Mayor, I'll make a statement. I'm not going to ask any questions. Council for 2.5 years had 1 person. We used to have 3 positions. Each year, the budget was cut, and where it was cut, we took a cut. So we lost 2 positions. We had 1 person working for 7 individuals for 2 years. And it's a number of years that the individual has been here. This certainly is not the Reed administration, because he had about 9 or 10 people up in his office. Now,
Those were the 2009 figures
well,
I gave you.
almost 9 or 10, I thought. But Mayor Thompson only had 4 people up in her office. And in that office, she had a senior assistant, she had a policy communications director, herself, and assistant to the mayor. And when she came before this council to ask for 2 other individuals, this council said no, would not give her any more, would not raise any salaries. They were adamant. Now, 3 people on this council was adamant about not giving any raises and not bringing these individuals in at $75,000 or $80,000. Because at the time, I think she said she was looking for the best of the best. You have yourself, your communications director, your senior advisor, and also your special assistant to the mayor, at a total of $280,000. Okay? Where the Mayor Thompson only had $250,000. But she had a young lady come in as a senior assistant to her when she came in. You brought that individual in as your special assistant to you. And at the time, we said we could not agree to give her $65,000 or $70,000. I just have a problem with giving someone $15,000 raise, Mayor. Everything that she has done, that you indicated that she has done, Mayor Thompson's, well, the former Mayor Thompson, assistant to the mayor, made $60,000, but she was doing all those things from the beginning for years. Now, I just don't agree with $15,000. I'll go with half of that, $7,500. But $15,000, that sets a bad precedence for this city when other people in this city, other employees, won't get $7,500, Mayor. And I don't know what her political ties is, and I really don't care about her political ties to the Wolf administration. I care about this city. I care about what the other employees are going to say, giving someone $15,000, they've only been here a year. Not even a year yet, not to December 31st. And sure, I respect Kathleen very highly. She's very capable. I've seen what she can do. And even my office has corresponded with her in doing things and worked with her in doing things. But I just don't agree giving someone $15,000 raise.
And I think it's
Where
okay
it's been
for us.
noted, that person, that same position was at $44,740, $40,000, $44,740.
No, see, just to correct the record, Mayor Thompson had 2 administrative assistants.
She had assistant.
One at 60,000,
Yep.
one at 40,000.
She had a senior
Both-
assistant to the mayor at 60, but you
That's right.
have a senior advisor to the mayor for education at
Those-
$70,000.
I understand, but those are different jobs. In terms of administrative,
Well, these were different jobs too for her. She had 4 people in her office, you have 4 people in your office.
I guess if you count me.
Well, I'm
but-
counting you, I'm
yeah.
sorry. Yes, I'm counting you.
Okay. I'm comfortable disagreeing and agreeing to disagree
That's fine.
in,
That's fine.
you know, an amicable way. I
Sure.
just want to make the statement that when you came to the mayor's office and asked for an additional administrative assistant for the city clerk, I supported that, and the 2 administrative assistant positions combined for city council make double what I am proposing for my 1 administrative assistant. So it does not seem to be an extraordinary ask, given the history of the city, the responsibilities inherited, or even in relationship to those that perform a similar function for city council.
Well, Mayor, let me correct you, because let me just say this to you. I came to you to tell you that we wanted to fill that position. We always had that position in our budget, every year. We just didn't fill it. For 2 years, Mr. Kirk Petrosky worked in that office alone for 7 individuals. We always had that in the budget. It was never taken out of the budget. I just didn't fill the position at the time because we were looking at cost-saving measures. Now, when you came before this council in January to ask for everyone to make $75,000, we didn't agree. We took them down to 70. You have, with yourself, 3 other individuals, one making 70, one making 40, wait, you get it right. One making 70, one making 45. You're making 80, and the other one is making 70. The former mayor had herself making 80, her communications director, which this council did not fill the next year. They only allowed her to have it 1 year. There was 3 members of this council who were adamant about her not getting that other position. Senior assistant to the mayor, 60, and assistant to the mayor, 40. So therefore, she only had 3 individuals, 2 and herself. She didn't have 4 people in the office.
You are leaving out the COO. I am working without a business administrator, a
They took him
COO.
out of the budget too.
No, I'm just saying, that the workload of the mayor's office has increased tremendously, and the administrative support has decreased tremendously. And I respect your
understand that.
opinion. I
But I
respect
just
your
can't see
opinion,
15,000.
President Williams. I respectfully disagree, and I just wanted to make the case that I don't feel I could do my job for the citizens of Harrisburg without that level of administrative
Let me
support.
be very honest with you. Let me just say this on record. I understand you want to give her $15,000 because I understand she got a invitation to go over to the Wolf administration. You want to keep her. So what you want to do is try to make sure her salary is commensurate with what they're going to offer her. I understand that. I understand, wait a minute, let me be very honest with you.
Actually, just commensurate with
Let me be
what I
very
had
honest
offered her
with you.
originally.
Because
which-
as she's politically known throughout the city of York, I'm politically known throughout the city of Harrisburg, and I know for a fact that she was thinking about going to the Wolf administration, being offered that amount of money. And I commend you for coming down here, but I just can't see it, giving her $15,000. I'm agreeable to $7,500, but $15,000 is a lot of money. What are we saying to the union employees? They got 1%. 1%. But some of the raises that you're indicating here, $8,000, $9,000, $5,500, $4,700. Union employees, 1%.
I think
That was
we,
collectively bargained, and, you know,
That's just my
we're sort of.
opinion. I need to make a statement.
Yes.
That's my
Okay,
statement.
I agree. Thank you,
And like I
thank
said,
you
the
for your
former
comments.
mayor, she lost her,
Yep.
her CEO. This council did not put him in the budget the next year. Communications director, they did not put it in the budget. She had 2 assistants and herself in her office,
Okay.
3 people.
I hear you.
we're going to move on. We could go back and forth on this all night, I think.
Well, I didn't say go back and forth. I said I had wanted to make a statement.
I know, I'm just
then.
saying. You guys went back and
Okay.
forth, you had it, we had it, we're moving on.
Okay. If I'm finished, now wait a minute, don't be disrespectful.
I'm not going to be disrespectful.
Okay. Well, I'm saying to you,
I'm just
we
saying,
were
for both
talk-
of you, we've talked about it,
okay, and we may not.
we've
be
said our
finished.
piece, and we are going to move on. If you have other questions not pertaining to that,
No,
let's go.
I had a statement. I never had a question. I had a statement.
You have additional statements under
No,
questions?
don't be disrespectful, Ben. I was just
I'm not
trying to
being
make sure he
disrespectful.
understood. I was trying to make sure he understood what I was saying to him.
I get that. I was
Okay.
not, that was not an admonishment to you.
Don't do that to me, brother.
I'm sorry, please, this is not a time for public comment. We will have that time.
I'm not public, but you don't shush me.
No more comments
No
from
more
the,
statements.
please. I'm sorry, were you?
No, I said I don't have any more statements to make.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And again, that wasn't an admonishment to you. I was just saying, we talked about it. Let's just keep moving on. Mr. Kaplinski.
I don't have any questions.
Ms. Daniels.
Yeah, one of the things that has been not clear to me is the distinction between the work the police community coordinator does and the work that the senior advisor to the Mayor of Education, Youth, and Civic Engagement does. So are you able to articulate the work product for the senior advisor to the Mayor for Education and Youth and Civic? What is the output of that position?
Right, they're really very different positions. I tried to answer that last week, and I'll see if I can do a better job of it. But the community policing coordinator works in the police department, works for the chief of police, and has a very specific task, which is to improve relationships between the community and the police, and I believe is doing a very good job of that. The senior advisor position advises the mayor's office on a variety of issues, including education and youth, but not limited to those, and has been very effective in making sure that the voice of the residents of Harrisburg has been at the table in every conversation we've had in this city. And occasionally they collaborate and work together, especially when we're going in the schools for programming, but they're really very different jobs and different skill sets, and I feel they're both performing adequately and exceeding expectations, really. We're not proposing any salary alteration for the senior advisor position, only for the community policing coordinator position, which again seems like a larger increase than the others, but only because that position's salary was cut by council through an amendment last year during this process, and I'm trying to bring that back to what I had originally proposed. I also feel personally responsible for that position because I had negotiated a salary with that individual, had convinced them to leave a job that paid more to come to work for the city of Harrisburg, and then and he had his budget, or he had his salary expectations cut. He continued to work for the city regardless, worked very hard and very well, and now we're proposing a raise for that position.
I guess I would just like to know what the work product is, because like for the senior assistant, I see the work product. For the police coordinator, I see the work product because I get the letters. I think we all get those letters. But what's the work product for the senior? What does that look like? I mean, because the reality is, I mean, what I know of what people do is what I see. So I either see those two individuals, whenever I see them, they're together, which makes me think they do a lot of things in
Well, they do
common.
work very well.
But-
Okay,
Yeah,
sure.
so I'd like to know what the work product is that I'm not seeing.
Well, there is a collaborative work product, and one of the nice things I think about our senior advisor is that he doesn't really seek the limelight or try and, insert himself into the spotlight in certain things. And he works with all the various department directors in a collaborative manner, always to make sure that the voice of the community is heard and represented. He's done a lot of quality work. If you'd like to ask him some questions, he is here and available for speaking to council.
Yeah, we could.
Would you?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So if we-
All right,
so the-
Mr. Singleton?
Yeah, so if you could just describe what it is, because this was a new position in terms of like what the job function is. So if you could describe in more detail, like what your work product looks like, what it is.
In regard, first, I'd like to clearly state that we took under careful consideration those suggested changes that was made by the council when we initially came down, which was to not concentrate so heavily, considering my position as senior advisor, on the education piece in the traditional sense, meaning only in the Harrisburg School District. I know that was a top concern. In fact, we expressed that, Council President Williams and I, as well as Vice President Reed, as we had ongoing dialogue and conversation. It was found that it would be less intrusive, or perceived to be less intrusive, if I didn't focus on the education piece as much as I did the actual civic engagement and community responsibilities, ensuring that there was a voice of the people at the table, given a varying perspective of those that were traditionally brought to various intimate meetings, we'll say, without getting into in-depth into too much. So when you say you see Mr. Botero and I at a lot of the events, it's for totally different reasons. Maybe it's because I had an administrative level meeting with the superintendent or school board members or other community engagement committees, community engaged committees that Mr. Botero didn't touch. Another thing to recognize is that just beyond the scope as we see traditional education, we also embrace the public, private, higher education, as well as non-traditional, if you would, the trades, educational opportunities with trade unions. There's been close talks and discussions with HAC in our workforce development, the WIB, the Workforce Investment Board. So those types of educational opportunities are the things at a different level that I'm engaged in regard to the civic engagement. Both Councilman Baltimore as well as Councilwoman Brown Wilson, they're in the Harrisburg Regional Diversity Coalition, which talks about ensuring that we have an active voice in the business community that's representative of the local MBEs, WBEs. So I don't want to spend too much time on the education piece, because I want to highlight that we did take into consideration, as this administration, council's initial concerns of not being perceived as delving into the school district issues.
Thank you.
Additional questions? Very good. Mr. Baltimore?
Not about the mayor's office, but if you're going to wrap up soon and go to public comment, I do want to ask another question about financial management before you do.
Actually, before,
Only the communication director to the
I was going to
extent
say,
you
did anyone have
questions.
questions for Communications Bureau in particular? I didn't, did you have?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, come on up,
I'm
Ms.
sorry.
Davis.
Ms. Davis.
Good evening.
Hi.
Right ahead.
I don't know if you can answer this or not, but on page 34, I have a question. Is the broadcasting network not expected to bring any revenue in for 2015?
No, it is, but
is?
yes, it's expected. In fact, we're hoping to bring much more revenue in.
Okay.
But that's why the fund was created, the WHBG fund
Okay.
was created, and that's where the anticipated revenue has been
And that's in the back.
allocated.
Okay. Are we still charging for ads and shows?
For ads, I don't know about ads, because we don't do ads. It's not supposed to be an advertising. It's no advertising on the station. But we do charge organizations or nonprofits that have an educational or informational mission, product that they're doing. And we now have a rate structure that we charge them because it involves studio time, it involves having a staff perhaps go out and cover something. So when people come forward and they ask for coverage on Channel 20, we assess the content, if it's in keeping with the mission, and then we have an allocated charge, depending on whether it's in studio or out of studio.
Oh, okay.
And that's Moman's doing. He has constructed
Oh,
that
he
whole.
does that? Okay.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
On page 34, what is the special project infrastructure revenue? What is that? That $350,000?
Oh, that's,
Oh, maybe you could answer
Yeah,
that.
Yeah,
Mr.
I
Weber.
mean, that's not communications. So, as we are getting to understand the city's diverse and somewhat complex financial situation, there are some balance sheet items that we found, that being one of them. Turns out that there is a loan that was made years ago, 25 years ago, I believe, via a DECD grant, 93-94, to Penn National Insurance, right? Yes. That loan is currently being paid back. It's current. I'm not sure I can't recall the exact terms, but there's a number of years left in that. So there's some money that's been accrued there over these years. There is some limitations from our understanding and conversations with DC of how that can be used, not for operations personnel. So we decided that there was some unused resources and decided to then allocate that to $250,000 to fund the land bank as initial contribution, and then $100,000 for the comprehensive plan. So that.
And of course, Bill and I will have to talk about that Penn National, because that's really surprising to me.
I believe it was surprising to a
Yeah,
number of people.
it was all of us. We're like, what's
We
this?
found money
Oh.
someone didn't spend.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is the,
It's a good thing, yeah.
and what's the particulars of how you can spend the money then? Do you have to go through DCD to spend it?
Our director, Jackie Parker, did have a conversation with DCED about it and got authorization for those uses, the comprehensive plan and the land bank.
Oh, okay, okay, all right. Wow. Guess we were asleep on that one. Okay, Joyce. I'm sorry, Ms. Davis.
That's all right.
So for your, you're giving your community service coordinator a raise. Was it
No.
budget for, now these were budget, what were they budget for in the beginning?
I don't think his has changed at all. It was 45,000.
Right,
For
but the tech,
Or 50,000 for the community services coordinator, 50,000. That was the original budgeted salary for that position.
and the production tech.
The production tech was at 45,000, but we would like to raise it to 48,000, is what we're interested in doing.
And that was that a newly created position?
No,
this year?
that's basically the position that manages Channel 20, the production technician, that's Moman's position. He's a one-man show for the entire station.
Who's your community service? Oh, that's your, okay.
No,
okay,
right.
Right.
And the
right,
webmaster, essentially.
Right.
Okay,
That's combined roles in that one.
okay. And that adds up. Okay, thank you. That's all I have under communications.
Does anyone else have any questions on communications?
Could you just repeat what you said, because I missed it?
Sure. Basically, there are two positions that would fall under the Communications Bureau. First position, Community Services Coordinator. That position is basically our webmaster. He also works with the 311 system, helping to implement it. Marketing, he does a number of things, but the primary role is basically to help communicate with the city through 311, the web, social media.
And then the other one is the
And the other one
television.
is, that's right, who manages Channel 20.
Okay, thank you.
Who else? Okay. Prior to just moving on, Mr. Baldwin, you said you had a question that you wanted to ask.
Yeah, I sent you guys a recommendation that, and I'm jumping back to 61, that the grants manager's salary be bumped up to, at the very least, be commensurate with your other managers. I had recommended to my council members that that salary
Can
be
you speak up a little
61.
bit, Mr. Bowman? I can't hear you down here.
I had sent you guys a recommendation about the grants manager
Right,
salary
sure.
bumping up. I didn't say at the but at the very least being commensurate with your other managers. I had recommended that based on what he brings in the last 2 years. I think he brought in $12 million or somewhere around there. If there's a personnel matter, I don't want to
No,
discuss it.
there's equity issues, there's budget constraint issues, and there's the fact that based upon, you can't benchmark one position versus another on their work product. And everyone in my office has worked and achieved way beyond expectations this year. And based on a percentage, there is a higher percentage than he is getting than the other projected requests. I can't, I'd like to give raises, if we could, beyond what's been proposed. There has to be some limit, some fairness and a balance between the office and the expectations that each individual person, has met, and you can't necessarily equate them. Like I said, they've all exceeded expectations, and I proposed the raises as commensurate to what I believe is appropriate.
Okay, and maybe we can have an off-the-record conversation. I'm basing my recommendation on the amount of money that I understand has been brought in the last couple of years.
I understand that. That's a difficult benchmark. For example, when I worked at the state previously, I did forensic accounting, and we did analysis of multi-tiered partnerships and S corporations, and tried to determine whether or not they were paying their fair share of taxes, and if we felt that, based upon legal opinions, statutes, revenue writings, that we could assess and, essentially, with the force of law, say you owe X number of dollars more or less in taxes. We had goals that were set, but those goals were soft goals. They could not be written into compensations, you can understand. So I think that's a very difficult way of benchmarking performance I think that needs to be taken into account, but it can't be the only measurement of what's determined success. There's no one person, does all that work when it comes to the grants, for example. It's a collaborative process. There's external factors in play. So, you know, I personally do not believe that that is the only benchmark by which you would determine compensation.
Good, thank you.
I have two questions. It's not out, it's to him, financial, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Bruce, would you turn to page 34? Thank you, Ms. Davis. Under 385000. And does this rebate amount change each year? And if it does, how does that process work?
Could you, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you closely.
Page 34,
Right.
385000, refunds of expenditures.
I have to
Does
ma-
the rebate amount change each year, and how does that process work?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Oh, it's, I don't know I have a clear answer for you right now. I'll have to get back to you on that one.
All right. Stand on page 34, 382000.
Yes, mm-hmm.
Okay. Contributions and donations. Is this $200,000 an anonymous donation or expected donation?
Yeah, no, so that's, once again, this is where the line items are not necessarily clear. So there's essentially two parts to this number. There are some various donations that are anonymous and specific for about 50,000. The other 150,000 is a municipal services contribution by Pinnacle.
Okay.
And it's not a pilot, it's a contribution.
We can list the contributions.
What's that?
Can I get a list of the contribution donations?
Sure, whatever, yeah. Whatever we have in our system, we absolutely can do that. Mhm.
Thank you. So 150, you say, is from Pinnacle Health?
Yeah, that's new, that's why it jumped up so much this year. So the 50 that's a guess, right? Because you don't really know what you're going to get any one year, so you're trying to get a benchmark of, based upon past experience. But that 150 is something that the mayor renegotiated. If he wants to speak to further, he obviously can do that. But we didn't want to put that into the pilot side of it because that's not what it actually is.
Okay. And on the last page of my questions, you can get back to me on that.
Yep. Mhm.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did that 150 have a specific string to it? I mean,
I don't think so.
anything you want?
Well, we're spending it in the proposed budget, so you can see.
I mean,
how
it
it's
didn't
spent.
have a health designation
No,
or
it did not.
anything like that?
There was there's another contribution that does from Pinnacle. They've been very generous towards the city.
No stipulation on how you spend it? If it's
No,
donate-
just like any other pilot agreement or other agreements that we've reached,
Payments in lieu of taxes,
we'll get
okay.
we'll get a nice list of all those that the city receives for you.
Okay, but I asked about the 150 from Pinnacle, like Mr. Baltimore said, there's no stipulations on how you spend that money.
It did not come with restrictions, other than to spend it legally.
And you said you had a question, Mr. Kaminsky.
So there's money there that we didn't know about.
Well,
No, we didn't. Well,
You didn't tell us. You didn't tell us about donation.
Cat's out of the bag, but we're trying to keep that a little hush-hush, just at the request of the donor.
Of the what?
Of the donor.
The donor.
If they're donating it, and it comes to city council, don't you think we'll find out about it? Because of course we asked it today. I did, I don't think anybody else, but I did. So if I want to know the donor, you gotta probably see where the donation's from. Or just give it an idea, if it's.
They didn't want to make a big deal about it.
Okay.
They
All
wanted
right.
to support the city, and they have.
All right. I won't beat you up anymore.
Mr. Kaminsky.
Thank you. Last question, page 29, the hotel tax revenue seems to go up by $100,000. What is that? based on?
Right, so that's a matter of trying to be effective use of our resources without overextending ourselves. So, we we're trying to balance the budget, and so we're not drawing down, actually, on the whole full amount this year. So because we did not, we felt that we're able to sort of essentially take that money this year and put it into next year, and that's hence the increase. So we're saving it this year, but we're going to spend it next year. There's different costs have gone up, and you try to get a balance, get a balance between your revenues and expenditures, and rather than spending it capriciously, we're pulling on a fund of reserve and spending it in 2015 rather essentially than in 2014.
So when we had issues of hiring freezes and we don't have any money and all this, we had money that we could have used for those purposes?
You don't know at that point, though. You don't know what you're getting in every year, so you have to sort of wait and see.
It's not all paid in one lump.
It's not all paid in one lump sum. In fact, a lot of it comes in very late in the year. There's a lag.
Sure.
So you don't want to spend what you don't have, essentially. So you're just trying to.
But we're applying the excess to next year, and that's allowing us to hire, so.
But that doesn't come through, because I notice on one page, which I can't find right now, estimated cash carryover, that's not that.
Yeah, no,
Page
that, most
34.
of that is actually for roads and maintenance.
From roads and maintenance.
That we haven't spent the money in roads and maintenance this year because that money was used to be essentially as a match for PennDOT money that we're getting.
Okay.
We need to reappropriate it next year, so it's still available. We haven't spent it, we're carrying that forward, and that's really what that carry forward is. It's just a budget placeholder to do that. The expenditure shows up in the roads and maintenance line item.
Okay, seems like a fairly substantial bump from what we're actual year-to-date. If the 527,000, and if you said that most of it comes in, that of course is as of November 17th, so if it does come in December, and that's the carryover, then, but still, that's a significant bump from what we've been able to get in 12, 13.
The economy's
14.
improving.
The city's in a strong financial position. It's actually really positive news.
Yeah, and the economy, I think that shows the economy is getting better. It's a good way of, that's a direct correlation, but it's somewhat of correlation. There's more people staying in hotels, and therefore a city gets more money, but it's really hard to know at the beginning of the year what that's going to be.
Okay, well, I appreciate your optimism, but I hope it doesn't come and hurt us later in the year. That's all I have.
All right, thank you. Prior to just moving to public comment, I just wanted to make note.
I have 3 questions, too.
3 questions?
Yeah.
Really? No, go ahead, Ms. Daniels.
Are you, excuse me, are you done with the budget now, or are we?
Yes, we're done.
Oh, good.
Well, he's going to get you the response to
Get you
your
those in
questions.
No, I wanted you to include some things that you can talk about, so that I want it on record. So after you finish, Ms. Daniels.
Okay, so I guess it's 2 questions and a comment. So as you know, I generally think the revenue side is overestimated, so I'm really concerned about that. But we've had this discussion.
I'm a pretty conservative guy, and I think you can ask anybody in the city. I don't have a Mr. Burns bobblehead on my desk for nothing. I think that I'm pretty good about really trying to be fair, reasonable, and conservative when it comes to revenue projections. There is no gain from any one of us here to overestimate that and then ending up in a budgetary hole. I'm very proud of the fact that we have gone from a negative cash balance to a positive cash balance, from payables at $4 million down to $1 million, being able to start reinvesting back into the future. I will toot my own horn and that of my department about the job that we have done here financially. It's taken a lot of work, a lot of hard work, a lot of long hours, a lot of cooperation, and we don't want to be too conservative with the revenue. We have to be reasonable, but I do not think that we have really overestimated. It's always a projection. There's always some uncertainty when it comes to that, and we will be careful, like we have this year, in monitoring that on a go-forward basis and adjust if appropriate.
So the 2 questions I had were basically, where in the budget, or how is the city planning for the 10 to 15 million shortfall from the losing Verizon? Like,
Very complicated question.
Yeah.
That's a long, involved negotiation that covers multiple years.
right, so is that, or any of those?
It's not in this budget because it cannot be in this budget.
Okay,
You know, and there's a very active negotiation. I think we're down to cracking heads at this
Yeah,
point.
it is.
And frankly, I think we shouldn't talk about the negotiation
Okay.
with the sensitivity of it.
okay,
But we are painfully aware of the Verizon Tower liability if negotiation cannot resolve. I think council is painfully aware of this. So,
And if you choose to, maybe we can talk with the gentleman who's doing the negotiation for us,
absolutely.
and maybe
I
have
think
an
the-
executive session.
Yeah,
Executive session.
An executive
That's a good
session.
idea.
yeah, that
Have
would be
them come
really
in.
helpful.
Mhm.
And the other one, the other question was, what are we doing in regards to, I forget what the acronym stands for, the health insurance benefit for the,
Cobra?
no.
No, OPEB.
OPEB. I forget what those letters stand
That gets, I mean, how do we pay for a $54 million assumed liability down for 30 years down the road? I don't know. We have a $4 million OPEB trust. Personally, opinion, I'm not sure that all those costs are going to be realized. That this gets into how do you project anything 30 years down the road. I understand that that comes on the books, but we are paying, I mean, the $10 million healthcare line item that we have already here, you know, that is an
That's
ongoing
included in
retirement.
there.
That is included
Okay.
in there. It's not like we're not paying what is currently our retirement healthcare costs.
Okay.
We do pay for that
Okay.
inside,
So
you
that
know,
it-
on a
and that's
go-forward
sort of
basis.
it. Okay.
And that's probably the best answer I could give for the time being, but, you know.
Okay, yeah. So those were kind of the three big questions I had, because those are three huge areas, you know, big problems. But, yeah, that was it.
Okay, and you said you had,
Yeah. I'm going to champion for a EAC budget. And the reason I say that, Mayor and Mr. Weber, is because this summer, I had the opportunity to have about 5 or 6 senior citizens approach me, 7 o'clock in the morning, 3 or 4 times a week. I got in touch with Mr. Johnson, who in turn, we cut down, how many trees? We went from one block to another, all day long, cutting trees down. And they're all senior citizens. So I'm championing that we take some money out of the host fee fund for senior citizens who need services such as cutting down trees, shrubs, and even removal of dead trees. And also I'm championing for the program through the Harrisburg Housing Authority for 50 kids this year for the summer program at $1,000 per kid. I think that was a great program. It kept 25 kids off the street. It gave them an incentive to want to work. Also, there was a training component that was built in with that summer program. So I'm asking my council members to put $60,000 in, 50 for the 50 kids at $1,000 and $10,000 for administrative costs.
I'll just say that there should be money in the host fee to be able
To
to
do
do
those
that.
things? Okay.
We proposed a budget for what we were going to receive projected from the host fee for this year. There is going to be a balance carrying forward in the host fee. Some of that requires payment from CRW and the completion of our work on 14th Street. So my recommendation would be that we can allocate for the Harrisburg Housing Authority Jobs Program when it gets closer to the summer, if council wishes to do that, just like we did this past year. There should be money available in the host fee at that time to do it, and perhaps you'll want them to come back and report to council on the program like you had requested that they would do. And, you know, we don't even have a application to do it yet, but we can do it. So agreement. And
Well, we assured you that we would,
so
when we
I-
look at the budget this year, that we would also add additional 25 more children.
I'm saying that we can do it. We
Yeah.
don't have to do it right now. That's all.
I want to make sure that I have it on record.
Okay.
And I've asked this administration for $50,000, okay? And $10,000 for administrative costs. And also money for senior citizens who need their trees cut down, because this year, Mr. Johnson, you know, he was nice enough in his budget to help those senior citizens, and there's a lot that needs help cutting down trees in front of their homes. We just
How
weren't
much
able
are you
to get to-
proposing for that?
Pardon me?
How much are you proposing for the tree?
I'm just proposing 25 or 50,000 out of that.
Who would that be reimbursed back to Public Works?
Yes. Because we cut down 4, we could have cut down about 20, but of course, you know, it got too late.
Why don't
in
we
the
get,
summer.
why don't we promise to get council updated figures on the host fee
Sure.
in terms of what we expect in reimbursements for next year?
Well, aren't we going
And
to,
they-
we're not going to allocate any money to the EAC Advisory Committee?
And how much would you like to propose?
Oh, I'm not proposing anything. I just want to make sure that we put something in there. Because we have a committee that's not being functional because of the fact that they don't have any money for advertising, copy, and I
I
heard what
think you-
Mr. Clutch said, and
I think
he's
you could
right.
certainly put $1,000, you know, in the host fee budget for the EAC advertising and expenses, which I think is, I don't think he was suggesting much. I think that is within the purview.
Right, and I just
We
want
could
to
do
get
that right away.
excess money for the senior citizens next year, because like I said, we could have cut down more trees, but I didn't want to,
Here's what we
His
do have,
budget.
what we do have in the host fee is we have a proposed reimbursement allocation to Public Works for participation in community cleanups to help cover labor and dumping fees. If you would like to expand that to include tree removal
for senior citizens.
for
yes,
senior
I said that makes
citizens, you
sense.
could do that.
Because they couldn't afford it.
I'm just saying, we could do that, and you wouldn't have to have identify an additional source, you just expand the scope of
Okay,
that.
that's
So I
fine.
think we could do both of those now, and then we should be able to do the Harrisburg Housing Jobs Program as we get closer to the summer.
Sure, thank you.
Good. Okay, to sum up, just for my colleagues on council, I do have amendments from Council President Williams. If anyone has additional amendments they want to propose, try to get that to me, I would say by end of business tomorrow, so then Lance and I can work it into Friday, and if we need help from Neil getting all that done.
Chairman Allott, I think I'm obligated to at least tell you where the rules stand on some of this under the state budget. There was amendments to the third-class city code. We have existing rules under the optional. They're not very different from what they were, but just for a council increase, it requires a two-thirds vote of a council of a third-class city, which means 5
Council
votes.
increase, I'm sorry, of what?
Budget items,
So salaries, for instance?
anything.
Okay.
Council's increasing, it's two-thirds vote. Council decreasing, 4 votes, so majority vote. If you go up over 10% of the entire budget or 25% on any line item, you cannot have a vote on it until you've put it out for public notice and ad that's been available for 10 days, which means under your current schedule, and you also have a statutory obligation to complete the budget by December 31st.
There's no amendments, I think, currently proposed that would exceed to that level,
No,
correct?
I'm just telling you, as you're
Okay.
writing amendments, I think just to be aware where they are. And on the practical side, that means, a budget reallocation next year on items or you're working on is, in the law, it works nicely. In doing it ahead of the time, it kind of creates a problem. But those are the lines that you have that are there. So we keeping that in mind. So in a sense, it's easier to get them increased under, at least as the statute's written, by getting them department chairs to, as opposed to the council doing that, just without having anyone objecting. What's the end line of all that? What lawyers worry about? When you have a budget that doesn't, or any other ordinance that doesn't comply with the statute as the state wrote it, then any taxpayer is free to take it to the county court and object to the budget because it doesn't comport to the statute. That is the risk. Now, will that happen? I don't know.
But we do have a responsibility to increase it or decrease it, so assure them of that fact. We can increase it and we can decrease it. It depends on, like you said, the amount of money that we are increasing and decreasing.
That's right.
I want you to confuse them, to not to assure them that they can decrease. You
Oh,
don't have to-
no, I said you only need a majority vote for a decrease. You need 5 votes for increases. That's how the state statute reads for third-class city code.
Okay.
So that's not new. That's not new. And you only have to re-advertise if you move over those percentages that we're talking about. So,
Okay, thank you. I'm going to move to public comment. Let's start with my right.
Timothy Dowtrick, 1033 Melrose Street, E-Board member of ASME Union, work for Department of Building and Housing. You guys know my history. You know, we have bargaining unit members that have actually been here before, or been through many administrations, and all the personnel that has been brought in by those administrations, been through many of the city council member people. People have been here 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20, 25, 30, 35 years. Well, I feel personally responsible for these people. And I think almost everybody that sits here also feels personally responsible for these people. But I heard that term, personally responsible. I feel personally responsible for these people. We talk about pay increases, and you know, we're talking about a 1% pay increase for some maybe 30 years here that has been through all the administrations, worked, putting up with all kinds of baloney, for lack of better terms. They're getting a 1% pay increase, but really they've lost money because of their co-pays and those types of things. So in reality, it's really not a pay increase. And we talk about management benefits paralleling bargaining unit benefits. Quite frankly, they do not. And I had this discussion before, and other people didn't even realize it. For me to get glasses, I can only get glasses every 2 years. As a management personnel, you can get glasses every year. For me to get my eyes checked, I got to go every 2 years. As a management person, you can get it done every year. So the fact of the matter is, things are really not parallel. Most of the people sitting up here have not been here as long as 10% of our bargaining unit people. We have people that have been here a long time. And I feel, again, personally responsible to them. I also feel personally, and I believe everybody here does too, and I believe the mayor does too, and everybody, but we need to bring this to the forefront. When we hear that we're personally responsible, we need to bring that to the front too. When we go into negotiations, and I wasn't really on the negotiation team last time, but I was very involved in it. You know, it's very important that we don't make promises that we can't fulfill. Now, we say we'll fight for you and we'll do everything we can for you, and we'll try and get you this, but I can't promise you that after this is all said and done, that we're going to be able to give you this amount of money or whatever it may be. So keeping that in mind, you know, we've got to be very careful, because we bring new people in, you know, with the administration. They're great people, and I hate to see if we lose any of them, but in the same token, we can't promise them something that we just, and it puts us in a tough situation. You know, if the mayor brought people in and promised them something, it really makes it tough on him, because now, for whatever given reason, he's not be able to fill it, and it hurts him inside. So we have to be very careful. And when I go to negotiations and talk to my bargaining people, we have to be very careful. When we talk about these pay increases, we have to take things by case basis. We can't look at things across the board. We have to look at each individual, each job, how it benefits the people of the city of Harrisburg. So, you know, and I hear, we talked about your department, Bruce, and how everybody has worked so hard. And I know Public Works, how everybody has worked so hard. They went through transition. Well, you know, every department has done a great deal. Do you realize the people that the department I work in helped this past year? I mean, when they come to our office, that's the last stop. I was sent out to look at a house last year, and I was told that they needed a new roof. Their roof was leaking. And it wasn't your parents. But, well, I mean, this can relate to a lot of individuals here, because some individuals in this room got help. So I went into the house, and it was a young lady, and she had children, and she said, well, my third floor roof was leaking. So I went upstairs, and it was snowing that day, and I looked at the roof. I said, dear, it's not leaking. I can see the snow coming in. So we did everything we could in our office, and she eventually got a new roof. So when we talk about all these departments that are working so terribly hard, it's across the board. We have helped more people. I'm amazed. You know, when I go into the office, Roy Chris, he'll say, you know how many people we helped today? You know how many people and that is what we're really all about here. That's what put people in the office. That's what Mr. Johnson's doing when it comes to taking care of the snow removal or picking up trash. We're helping the people and your constituents, and I'll say my constituents, the people I work for, okay? So we must keep focused on that and continue our passion on that. And the people have been here 5 years, 35 years. That's exactly what has kept them there, the passion, the caring for the people and the taxpayers in the city of Harrisburg. Because trust me, they put up with a lot of baloney through all the different administrations, and they get people coming in and they'll say, I've seen them come and go. And it's true. So please don't put a cold shoulder on our bargaining unit people. Don't be disrespectful to them. Some of the upper management people are former bargaining unit people. So, we talk about fair. Somewhere someone mentioned the word fair. Things are not fair. Okay? And I just really came to that epiphany. Things are not fair. Sometimes one person may work a little harder than another person, the other person makes more money. Things just are not always fair. We have to do what's right. Think about our bargaining unit people. And I feel personally responsible to them. And everybody in this room should. Because when your trash isn't picked up, they're the first one you call. And they're there at your house every week. Fire and police, hopefully you're not at your house every week. No disrespect to them. But the trash people are there every week. And they're the first ones you complain about. When actually they came through at the time they normally come through, and you forgot to put your trash out, so you quick run it out, and then you call in and say they missed me, when in fact they... So think about these things. These are guys that have been here doing that for 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 years. Don't lose sight of that. Don't lose sight of why we are here. We are here for the people. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a bad evening, brother. Good evening. My name is Mr. Boyd. I'm a community activist. I think I heard twice this evening from the mayor's office about the people and the residents. You know, it's something about the city of Harrisburg. We're a melting pot. We're very diverse, and a lot of us love each other because most of us are family here. What impresses me about this new administration here, I'm really taken back. I wish I could make $8 grand, $10,000, $14,000, and I just was here 1 year. But I like to say to the 7 that I'm standing in front of you, the year 2015 is going to be an interesting year for the city of Harrisburg in many ways. I am so tired of brutal economics. I am so tired of liars and deceivers. They will promise you anything and give you nothing. Some of the best politicians come from the city of Harrisburg. Over 30 years of lying, deceitfulness. But that's not why I'm really here tonight. I haven't spoke of the homeless for many months. But I listened to 2.3 million, I listened to 1 million here, 100,000 here, the host fund here. But the ones that truly need help are the people of the city. We speak about children. We talk about youth. We talk about $10,000 here for children. This city needs jobs. $1,000 per child, that's good. But we've been doing that a long time, helping the youth. That money could be taken and put somewhere in a shelter or some kind of place that would benefit this city. Believe me, and I get so tired of this, talking about our great city's broke. I've heard from the mayor's office, those numbers have really impressed me. And I'm very happy about that. But at the end of the game and at the end of the night, we still say this. This is a good city, but we have no unity here. The Honorable Mayor, I like him. He likes me sometimes, but why can't we unify? Good evening.
Thank you.
Good evening. Susan Weldon, 100 Pine Drive. I am the ASME president for the local 521, which represents CRW, which is this shirt, and the city of Harrisburg employees under the local. And I'm not going to talk about an individual in a sense that individual, I'm just going to be talking about him in a general sense. Yes, we sat down to long hours of negotiations. We sat down to them. The police sat down to them, and the fire department sat down to them, and we sacrificed. And yes, I understand this administration was not there then, but we sacrificed and we made a commitment till the year 2016. Okay, we were supposed to get raises, we did not. We buckled our belts tight. We're going to go into this year with a 1% raise in the city of Harrisburg employees and the CRW. And I know that's a separate area for you. But they were correct earlier when Tim spoke about the increase on your COBRAs. I mean, on your insurances, because it went up. They're talking about raising the COBRA prices. They don't know yet. They can't give us answers on this. They have nothing. We keep asking. They don't have answers because they don't know what questions yet to ask. Okay? So there's more money out of the pocket. Things are going up in price. The only thing recently that's dropped is gas. Huh, miracle. Now, I don't have a problem with people getting raises. And I'd love to sit down and negotiate in 2016 and get the percentage of the average raises that they're talking about here, where there's anywhere from maybe $1,500, probably the one that's the most is the $15,000. Shuffle some names around, change the title position. I'm not picking on the particular individual, you know, I'm just talking in general sense, across the board. Why don't you just give everybody the 1% in management? A lot of them haven't got raises. You know, 10 years this manager's been around, didn't get a raise, unless they shuffled their title around. They do a lot of shuffling of titles. That is a known fact. Departments will keep disappearing. Okay, then they want to recreate them. No. What is going to happen when the blight continues on the city, when they got rid of the budget for all your demolition except for the crew leader? He doesn't have no crew. Who's he directing? How are they going to take these houses down? They're going to subcontract these out? It's been proven time after time. The receiver, Novak, the Fred Redding, and everybody looked into this, and time after time, and all across the states, they know that it's more cost efficiently to be done in-house. Why didn't you get rid of them?
So those are back in the budget. They were via amendment. It's 2 more ASME jobs, and they are proposed back in. It was an oversight to have not put them in. We discussed that last week, just so you know. That's exciting. Okay. We're actually putting in 3 more union jobs than we originally proposed.
In demolition?
Yes, 2 in demolition, one in street.
Okay. All right. Because I was trying to read through this budget, and there was a lot of shuffling, and the budget I was looking at was what I seen. But I'm like, how do you do that? How do you survive in Parks and Rec maintenance out there with 8 people and try to get grass cut? You can't do it. The functions that the city is supposed to be providing to its citizens are not getting done. You need boots on the ground, period. You need people capable of going out there. I'd love to know the ratio of the jobs that the management salary is total, how many members there are, versus the people on the ground for all 3 departments or branches. Because I think you guys would be very amazed at that. I thank you for your time. I hope you give consideration the fact that we're really not getting a raise. And I speak to the fact that these are people I've been working with for a long period of time, because when they talk about them 30-year people, they're not just making them up. I can match Joni. I got the 30 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone from my center?
I'm Carol Treaster. I live on Green Street, Riverfront Park Apartments. I retired in February. I think it was March. I received a bill from one of the medical people that does my blood work. Up until then, I had never paid for it. I have a $330 bill because they did not do my blood work, would not pay for any of my blood work since the union renegotiated and they had to change our medical. Thank God I retired and they paid my blood work again, but you know, that's not right. Sue's right. Union is not getting a raise. They're getting a decrease. And it's hard, particularly if you have a family. So,
Thank you. Anyone else from my center?
Hello again, Honorable Member. Jeremy Domenico, I live in Triangle.
Talk into the mic for us, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I have a few questions. I hope we're not just continuing to give the host fee stuff away. I need dumpsters. The mayor personally put it into his budget so that the trash that's not stopping has a place to go. And it just seems like every time I come to one of these meetings, the EAC is now they're paying for other stuff. And if we could save one child, it's worth $1 million, okay? It's not about the money to me. It's just, the biggest problems we're facing in Harrisburg now is trash, blight, and crime. I got all of them right on my street. I do what I can, okay? I don't need the 1% raise. I don't need a raise, period. I'm retired. I do it for free. Also, I personally took 339 tires to York, and I paid 75 cents a piece. Okay, I'm not paying $1 or $2. They're not my tires. They're the city's tires. But I also talked to a guy. There's companies out there that take tires and pay you for them because they make mulch. They make entire buildings out of recycled tires. And I don't know why we're not looking into this. Why are we going to pay somebody to pick up our trash when somebody will pay us for that product? I don't have the wherewithal to research it. As far as City Works, I couldn't possibly recommend a high enough raise for what they do. Sometimes it's unbelievable what they had to go through. But as far as some of the things that is included in the budget, where's the maintenance fleet? We should never have a vehicle rusting out the floorboards, ever. I was in the automotive industry for 30 years. Preventive maintenance is 1/10 the cost of replacement. So we have to take money out of the EAC to fix our trash trucks because there's been no maintenance on them. I don't understand that. When there's a maintenance guy in the budget, and I don't know where it's going. As far as the community police coordinator, Harrisburg was so far above and beyond. Look what happened in Ferguson. They're scrambling to fill that same position right now. Harrisburg Mayor, City Council, you guys filled it a year ago. That was so far ahead. And if anybody, in my opinion, would deserve a raise, I personally know Mr. Botero professionally, just through the work that he's done. I've met him numerous times at different functions that I go to. I am amazed at the job. When I was brought up, you didn't even say cop, you said police officer. Now, police officers have to deal with so many different things, a lot of multicultural poverty issues. They don't know how to deal with some people. Mr. Botero, if anybody, in my opinion, is well worth any salary increase that he could get. I really appreciate all you guys' time, all the dedication you have. And if I don't see you by then, I hope everybody has a fantastic holiday.
Thank you. Anyone else from the center? To my left? If not, have a great night, everybody. Meeting adjourned.